Good evening. It's October 1st, 2024 at 5:15 p.m. The work session for this evening is now in order. I'm going to call the roll. Commissioner Rutledge.
Here.
Commissioner Chismar.
Here.
Commissioner Taylor.
Here.
And Commissioner Chance.
Here.
Terrific. We have everybody here. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion of the agenda items? All right, Mr. Krantz, we're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To approve this evening's agenda for Bel Air Board of Town Commissioners work session, October 1st, 2024. Commissioner Rutledge.
Aye.
Commissioner Chismar.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
Commissioner Chance.
Aye.
And Chair Edding.
Aye.
The agenda is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Krantz. And first, we have the Town Administrator's Report. Mr. Hopkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a number of items, probably the most I've had since I've started this position. Leave all the speaking to these five. Couple of things. First off, you're all aware from my email the deployment to North Carolina, the EMAC request that was made. I know you and I just spoke, Madam Chair. We're right now in a holding pattern for our personnel. I'll let the Chief specifically comment if he has anything more direct on that. But Chief, did we have any update?
The Chief does.
Yes, sir. Chuck Moore, Chief of Police, Bel Air. First of all, I apologize for my dress. I've been on the road all day at legit training, 2 hours to get down to Hanover and 2 hours to get back. I almost didn't make it back. The traffic is just horrible. Yes, but the EMAC request, we did, we're going to be in partnership with the Harford County Sheriff's Office. And for those that may be unaware, EMAC stands for Emergency Management Assistance Compact. And that typically is generated by a state that is experiencing a natural disaster. A governor then makes a request for resources from other states, and emergency managers, such as Mr. Hopkins used to be, would receive those requests and farm them out to jurisdictions such as ourselves, and then we will say, hey, we have the resources, we can help, et cetera. So because of Helene, the disaster, the hurricane, and all of the turmoil created by Helene, we did receive a request, and us and the Harford County Sheriff's Office are going to be providing personnel and resources. Harford County Sheriff's Office will provide 10 people, and we're going to provide 4. And the activation will begin Saturday, October 4th, and continue through Sunday, I think it's the 13th. I'm incredibly proud of our personnel for stepping up and making that sacrifice and volunteering to go down there and represent the town of Bel Air. I'm very appreciative of the support from you, the commissioners, our leadership, and Mr. Hopkins for standing behind us, getting behind our people, and going down and representing and trying to bring some normalcy back to a community that has been tragically hit very hard by Helene. I'm seeing that there could be up to 130 deaths at this point, probably more. People are stranded in their homes, severe flooding. There's no communications. There's some looting going on. It's very tragic, and I'm proud that we're going to be part of trying to help them out. So, any other questions on that?
I just want to say I am very impressed that 4 officers have volunteered
Yes, me
to
too.
go to an area with no power, no water, no food, flooding, and all these people trapped in the towns. They cannot get out. You can't get resources into them. I mean, it's an incredible thing to say, yes, I'd like to go to that. So I'm very proud and appreciative. And they've gotten a lot of support from not just our area, but many other areas, and it really shows that we are really these United States of America
Yes.
when there's a problem. So
Yep.
thank the officers.
And kudos to Harford County too for stepping up with us.
Absolutely.
And we'll be one great team representing Harford County and the town of Bel Air.
You know, it has been said that in times of disaster and crisis that there are 2 types of people, and those people who run out of the fire and they cannot be blamed, and then there are those people who run into the fire. And those are our American heroes. And we are incredibly proud to have American heroes in the Bel Air Police Department. So my hat's off to you, Chief, and
Thank you, sir.
to our brave,
Yep.
our brave folks. We really, this is incredible.
Thank you, commissioners. So,
Thank you, Chief. 2 final
sir.
points on that, Madam Chair. Most likely when we deploy, the Chief will keep me, and I'll keep you informed so that if any of the commissioners want to visit the officers before they leave, we'll try to grab a not from a promotional standpoint, but try to grab a photo opportunity for them before they go. We'll also maintain, the chief and I have talked about having a family liaison so that we'll have direct connectivity with the families, can take care of the officers' families while they're gone. There is a team currently down there consisting of 3 sheriff's deputies and a DES representative. They arrived late last night, and so they'll trying to get a better idea from them what they're exposed to so that we can be better prepared for Saturday.
I know one of the concerns is communications,
Yes.
because they really have no communications infrastructure right now, and I'm sure
Right.
the officers' families would like to have updates on what they're doing and how they're doing, so
For
that'd be
sure.
great.
So moving, Steve.
Eddie, is there anything that people can donate or whatever to take down with them? I mean, I know that's not the mechanism, that's not your role, the role for the officers to go down, but even for them, if there's anything for the officers.
There's a list, there's like a 40-page booklet for EMAC deployment for things that the officers or firefighters, paramedics would want to take with them. The main thing for them is that they'll need to pack light because we'll only have so many supplies, or so much room for supplies. But I would imagine foodstuff, snacks, bottled water, things like that is what they might be looking to take down, because there's nothing available for purchase down there, and once you're down here, they're down there. I know that they've internally, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, I know they've internally already talked about potable water, buying the clean containers from Walmart and doing 7 to 10 gallons of water and packing that as well as like protein bars and other things of sustenance. So the upside in email traffic, maybe you know differently, I thought there might be a little more primitive, like tent, where they might be staying in tents potentially, but it looks like they may be reserving hotels that are available down there. So their sleeping arrangements, maybe the opportunity for a shower and personal hygiene might be a little more better than we anticipate that it was. So, but in terms of, for the people who are viewing this broadcast, in terms of wanting to donate, I want to talk to David about doing a completely separate post, because people need certain items. They don't need winter coats. They don't need Goodwill hand-me-downs. They need specific things. And in many cases, the stuff that is donated in disaster relief goes right to the dump. It never goes to the intended people because it's not what they need. And people also, unfortunately, donate money to people who think they're going to give the money to the recipient, when in reality it's a scam. So a lot of money goes to the wrong organizations and never ever gets to the people in need. I remember when we deployed to Haiti a number of years ago, Haitians got at least probably 500 or 600 winter coats. Why does a Haitian need a winter coat? So, and all those winter coats just went right into a pile and most likely in the ocean somewhere. So, anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess there's kind of like 2 things. One, what would our officers need?
Right.
And 2, what would the residents of North Carolina need? I mean,
Right.
those are kind of 2 lists of people.
So if I can jump in there, we're going to make sure that they're perfectly equipped with everything that they need. We're going to send them out with a credit card to get some certain things. We've actually have a family care list that we give them for events like this that's a checkoff list, just reminders basically. And they're going to go through that list, and things that they don't have, we're going to send them up to some retailers in order to get them. We'll save the receipts, and we'll submit them all to for reimbursement later on. So, but if I can echo exactly what Eddie was saying about the donations, I would be very cautious about that, because I've been on one myself, and there was one donation. A bunch of stuffed animals came in, and basically they just had to get thrown away. So I would just be very cautious, and I would pay attention to any information out there coming from the source for the things that they need donations for, rather than just sending stuff.
Right, because otherwise you could be inundated with donations in addition
Yes.
to ones that they don't even need, and that
And it
doesn't
creates
help.
more
That
work.
doesn't that's
Yeah.
more work, right.
Yep.
So that doesn't help either. That's why I was just asking.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good question.
But certainly, if Karen wanted to break a dozen or so brownies, I'm sure, get you in this oven for the next couple of days. Have you bake some brownies, cookies?
I will bring that up to her.
Would be a terrific
let me know
on-the-road
before-
snack if you,
Right.
Let me know before you tell her. so I
coffee and a
can-
brownie when you get in the
Sample them
car.
before to make sure they're up to quality?
No,
Okay.
so she doesn't kill me for making the suggestion. Okay, thank you, everyone. So moving on, for the commissioners, we've established, Mr. Krantz and I established what we call the A107 calendar, which is this conference room next to us. We've become incredibly much busier, I think, than we have in the past, and sometimes we run into conflicts with this conference room. We've used to use it just on the fly. You walk in, what we found now is we're walking in and people are using it, which is perfectly fine. So Christine is managing that calendar for you. So if any of the 5 of you want to reserve that room for a meeting, a conference, an interview, or just to do a report, let Christine know and she can sign you up on the calendar if you want. So that's just an FYI. That way you'll know it won't be a conflict. Moving on my list, Senate Bill 1099 was brought to my attention a little over a month and a half ago. Senate Bill 1099, which goes into effect tomorrow, actually today, has to do with co-locating Narcan in AED boxes within public facilities. The downside of this is that most of the state is not prepared for this. The upside is we are. So all of our AED boxes within the town limits, and those are the ones that are contained within boxes, not necessarily the patrol cars. So if you go down this hallway, you will find ampules of Narcan co-located with the AED. The concept that the state's trying to do is obviously a lot of cardiac arrests that are the resultancy of opioid overdose. So they want to co-locate them. I'm in the process now of purchasing. The only thing we haven't done is create a sign, some sort of sign or symbol that tells people that box has Narcan in it. I did, when I put those boxes in play at the Plumtree Park and at Office Street Pocket Park, we populated the 911 CAD system for the notation that Narcan is in those boxes, so that if an opioid overdose occurs, I don't know, let's just say on Main Street at Tony DePaulo's office, and somebody can run to that box and get Narcan out of that box. Now, if the call is another 1,000 feet down the road, it's not going to populate because it's not going to make any difference. EMS will be on location. But in that situation, when it's close to you, you'll have it at your fingertips. So we are compliant. The actual deadline date for everyone else but us is 2027. But so I did check that. Did make offers when I was on the conference call with the state, who's coordinating the program, offered to showcase our program, and all I got was crickets. So that's okay. They can figure it out on their own. I met with Steve Klein and Kevin Small earlier this week, and just an FYI for the commissioners, because you may get questions, but demo permits have been issued for 128 North Bond Street, which is the church on Mr. Goddard's property, and the old Pete Cycle, which is the new Raising Canes. So they're not building permits, just demo permits. They'll be allowed to raise those buildings and bring them down. I do not, unless, Steve, do you know, are there any dates?
I don't have any dates, but it
So-
will be forthcoming the next week or two. They've already disconnected their sewers and things of that nature.
So chances are you'll probably get some inquiries. Raising Canes did reach out to me to offer their building for fire department, police department training. Right now, the only people interested in are the fire department, which is fine, but at least they offered. So Lisa and I have been discussing, and Mike have been discussing, the opioid restitution. I wanted to let you know that 2 things have happened over the last couple of weeks that we have made decisions on. One of those is in a civil suit against Kroger Industries, which operates Harris Teeter pharmacies in Maryland, 18 Harris Teeter pharmacies in Maryland. They've settled that suit. Bel Air will realize $6,000 in change in opioid restitution monies. Now, we don't have any Harris Teeter's stores in Harford County, but Harris Teeter's, to simply explain it, Harris Teeter's is one of those stores that there was just so much going on. There was more than ample evidence to prove it, that they were they distribute opioid medications. So everyone went into the suit, everyone came out with a little bit of restitution. As opposed to Target, for example, Liz and I, Lisa and Mike, spoke with our representatives, law firm, who was also the global firm representing all of this. One of the opportunities was to join a suit against Target. But in consultation with the chief, we did not believe that we had enough evidence to support that any of our overdoses were the result of medications received from Target. And in a, if you'll bear with me one second, yes, Commissioner Rutledge and yourself, Madam Chair, may be more familiar with this, but this particular case against Target involves Bellwether, a case involving Bellwether, and which would make it a test case. And if we are selected as one of the test case people, if we had signed on to this suit, selected as a test case and failed to meet that demand, we would have looked really bad. So we collectively, and Lisa and Mike, please correct me if I'm wrong, we collectively agreed that the reward was not worth the risk. So we declined and submitted our declination to the attorneys at that time. But We did not in Kroger, so we will receive approximately $6,000 from Kroger. And if you're curious, Aberdeen received $8,500 and change. Hartford County received $435,677, and Havre de Grace received $8,400. So the three municipalities received, in the ballpark, close to the same amount of money, and the county certainly received the lion's share because they're certainly bigger with more overdoses. One of the upsides for us is that the chief is just managed a very successful overdose program. Our overdose deaths are significantly down, and due to his work and due to Chip Carter's work in the field. So just an FYI. We're going to talk about this later under presentations, but the Chabad groundbreaking, Commissioner Taylor caught me off guard. We had never done a proclamation for a groundbreaking before, and I was a little dismayed with myself when I saw that Delegate Griffith had one and we didn't. But then I felt better when the councilman, Tony G., and then the county executive didn't have one. And then, so I felt good. Then I felt bad when I came back to town hall and realized we had one on the table. So it was quite the conundrum, but that was at the same time Commissioner Rutledge was ill, and I think Mr. Chismar may have been away. It was only signed by 2 of you. So what we've opted to do, I talked to Mike, what we opted to do, and also would help Rabbi Cushy, is we'd like to present the proclamation to him here at the next meeting. I think it would add another, one, it would bring even more awareness of the Chabad, because it was quite a very nice groundbreaking ceremony, well attended, well put together, and I didn't want us to miss our opportunity. So appreciate Commissioner Taylor bringing it to my attention, because had he not said something, I would not have come back or saw that until a couple of days later. So anyway, the proclamation is on the Commissioners' conference room table, if you all could sign it, and we'll present it then. Excuse me. The chief and I and Steve attended, we conducted an after action with the Lions Club on the Derby. I know it's 4 months post-event, but with all their events and stuff, they were very happy with everything that went down. We had a great conversation. Angela was part of the discussion as well. We talked about the impacts to Main Street, talked about alternatives. There's a number of things talked about, and what I love about the Lions Club is they're always willing to improve. No matter how well something's done, you can always improve upon it. So right now, tentatively, and Angela, correct me if I'm wrong, we're looking at May 18th of 2025 for the next one. They moved it out of June into May for a couple of reasons. One, it's a little cooler. Two, the kids are in school, because right when this one took place, a lot of people were leaving for vacation, end of school kind of thing. There is still some concern with Main Street. Some of the businesses were concerned about a reduction in their business for that day, and I don't know how we get around, we just don't know how we get around that. Angela messaged all of her people. Jenny messaged her people. The Lions Club went door to door. I'm just not 100% sure how we avoid some of the loss of business when this race takes place. There has been some discussion about maybe moving it to earlier in the day versus later. So more to follow on that, but it was a very, very, very productive meeting with a lot of good stuff bantered back and forth for the future. Let me see. I have met with the, Mr. Castley has a Veterans Commission. Mr. Brown is the chairman of the Veterans Commission. Next year is the Army's 250th anniversary. He came to us, and County Executive Castley suggested him that he come to us and ask for a parade, to host a parade. I don't think he realized the nuts and bolts of a parade. I sat down and had an hour-long meeting with him, very detailed meeting with him, but I gave him the nuts and bolts of what it would take. Our challenge is that most everything in town is booked already for next June when they want to host it. There's only really one date, and we're sort of hoping that's the date he'll go with, that they land on. I don't know the specifics of it yet as to what the parade would entail, except that they would love to close Main Street for a couple of hours and have a parade. That would start most likely up around the courthouse and end at the Armory, and recognize our veterans. So more to follow on that, but just that's a potential date for that is early June. I think I didn't write it down. I believe it's like June 18th. But it's prior to MML. So MML would not be a conflict, which will be nice for the Derby, because then the Derby won't conflict with MML for us next year either. Moving on. Mr. Klein and I think Steve did, I apologize, I know I did, received a letter from the Maryland Department of Planning that they are transitioning Bynum Pond from DNR to Hartford County. So DNR was managing, Parks and Rec does a lot of work down there, takes care of a lot of things, but actually DNR manages the pond and the fisheries. They are going to transition that over to the county in the not-too-distant future. There is an opportunity for public hearing. I don't know who would oppose it, but there's an opportunity for that. I can send you that memo if you're interested in it, but that will take place in probably within the next 8 to 10 months as well.
Eddie?
Yes, ma'am.
Did they specifically designate a department within the
No,
county?
just Hartford County government.
Okay, just curious.
Our guess is it will filter down to Mr. Magnus' shop in Parks and Recreation. That's who that I've worked with on some fire department issues, and the rest of us have worked with, and we just put those mosaics down there too. So there was just some mosaics that were erected down there, so, sure.
So, does this mean anything? I mean,
No.
would we see anything different? with
No.
this, you know, type of thing?
No, it's an FYI thing. In case somebody comes to you with a complaint or a problem, you'll be able, instead of coming through here to get your answer, you'll already know to send them to the county. Kevin and I talked about annexing it, but neither one of us wanted to dredge the pond. So, yeah,
Right.
I'm kidding.
It was only done 30 years ago, wasn't it? 25?
No, I actually had it done about 8 years ago when we put in a drafting source for the fire department. We dredged it and had it cleaned out. I'm sure it silted back in over 8 years, but, and there's still fish in there too, supposedly.
Right. Well, I just remember when it was kind of drained and we put in, and whoever put in the brick walls.
Yes, the retaining walls, yeah.
Retaining walls.
Yep. Moving on, Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I told you it was a lot. We got our letter on September the 18th. Mrs. Moody and I received a letter from the MDOT. Revised highway user revenues for the town of Bel Air for fiscal years 25 and 26 are as follows. For 25, now again, these are estimates. For 25, we should get $703,282 and change, $280 and change, excuse me. And in FY '26, we should receive $788,680 and change respectively. So again, I know Lisa and I will probably get updates when we get closer to those times for more specific numbers. But as we begin budget season next month in terms of preparation, just note good numbers to have in the back of your head. Lisa, anything else on that I'm missing? Okay.
What were our funding for this year? Around 700, 680, 690?
It's around, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but it's a ballpark.
Yeah.
Later on, at the meeting, Steve will discuss PFAS, but based on Commissioner Chismore, your inquiries about PFAS and its impact to our water system, Steve and I have been discussing, and then recently the county put together a work group of which Steve is a member. We're going to try, if not every work session, every other work session, to have a PFAS report for you, and Steve, I know, is prepared to address this later on in our agenda. But I just wanted to make you aware that he and I thought that'd be best to every other work session, maybe to give you a report on the PFAS status, the outcome of the meetings. We're fortunate that, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, we're fortunate that we have a very, very limited amount of water that we take from the county, and it comes from the Bynum Well, which is located down next to DPW. The percentages are small. Our Maryland American Water seems to be fine. But that aside, there's other things that should be brought to our attention, and Steve will report on that. And I believe he'll have a report later on the agenda. Also, later in the agenda, Lisa and I will discuss proposed language for the audit for nonprofits requirement that we talked about. I wanted to circle back with you, Madam Chair. You and I had discussed peripherally once or twice about re-energizing the town and county quarterly meetings that used to be held prior to COVID. I have not moved on that. I wasn't sure what your pleasure would be or what the pleasure of the commissioners would be. I can certainly start the ball rolling on that, making the inquiries if you want. And then I would imagine most everyone's fall is kind of planned out. I don't know if you want to plan like for January and start fresh, but I'll yield.
One question was, I know that the 3 municipalities also used to get together. Were you going to include all 3 municipalities?
Yes.
Or just, yeah, I think that is a great idea. I'll reach out to the other 2 mayors in Aberdeen and Havre de Grace to see if they're interested. I know it fell apart a few years ago. I really think it'd be a great idea for us to all, talk once in a while.
Right.
So quarterly and after the first year might be a good idea, because looking at,
Well, the thing that crossed my mind from our discussions, one with Governor Moore's fair housing, with the PFAS issue, there's just so many issues that are crossing jurisdictional boundaries. And I know that many times Kevin and/or Steve and/or Lisa were all calling the municipals for how are they doing it. This might be able to kill 4 birds with 1 stone, if you will.
Right, and how to actually work it might be something that we have to like sort of figure out as we go along. Because when I worked for the county, I would have regular meetings with the other assistant county attorneys that did workers' compensation, so that we could all see we're dealing with the same issues, our legislature did this, or there was a new case out or whatever. And sometimes all you've concluded was like you were doing as good as you could, is just, you know, a problem you had to deal with every day. But sometimes people had better ideas, so, you know, just to know what other jurisdictions are doing with things is sometimes helpful,
Sure.
even if you don't want to follow what they're doing,
Right.
just to know what's going on. So I think it might be beneficial for, you know, all the departments to think, you know, do I want to meet with my counterparts in the other jurisdictions once a quarter or something to
Okay.
discuss whatever's going on?
The only thing I don't have, and I've not talked to Lisa about this yet, is I don't have a budget for food or drink. So depending on when the elected officials collectively agree to meet, if it's in the evening, there used to be some sort of coffee and sandwiches. In the afternoon, it could just be cookies and coffee. I don't know. But if you let me know, I can.
During harsh budgetary times, the assistant county attorneys would just meet, we would all order and pay for our own lunches. Sometimes the staff at whoever was hosting would be
Yeah.
kind enough to bake brownies,
Right.
you know, that sort of thing. But you can do it with a nickel, you know, if you have to.
Yes.
So that's another possibility, is what we would do. Sometimes the hosting jurisdiction would get takeout menus, and we'd all pay our 10 or 12 bucks or whatever and get sandwiches and stuff. It worked out pretty well, actually, and then it wasn't a burden on any particular
Right.
jurisdiction.
So for my action item, then you'll be talking to
I will talk
the
to
2
the other
mayors
2
in the
mayors.
county?
Yep.
Okay. And then last but not least, and this is for next work session, Judge Mahoney had reached out to Chief Moore and myself. He would like to come before the commissioners for a brief presentation on the circuit court adult drug program that they have, very similar to the district court program. He asked for maybe just 10 or 15 minutes to talk about it. They've had some moderate successes with it that he wants to share, and I think he may want to find other ways to potentially partner with the town for the betterment of maybe the defendants and things like that. But anyway, that's will be for the work session after this one, 2 weeks, so for them. And then lastly, just staff-wise, we wanted to welcome Commissioner Rutledge back. We knew that he hadn't been feeling well, and just happy to have him back on the dais with us. So, thank you for your patience.
Things that we had to address today? No. All right. In that case, on to our tentative agenda for our town meeting, which will be Monday, October the 7th at 7 p.m. right here. First, we're going to have a presentation to Senior Officer Rick Kraus to be awarded the Do Good Heroes. I have seen that on Facebook and social media. Chief, anything you want to add to that?
No, just again, we're just proud of Rick Kraus. I think everybody knows the great work that he does in the community with the SRO program and the National Life Group. It's an insurance group, and this is almost a national type of award. They have several nominees a month, and he is a monthly winner, which means that he will get $1,000 to donate to his charity charity that he selects. And looks like he's going to give that money to a group called Child's Life Cancer Program. As we know, his daughter is recovering from cancer. So I think it's a good cause. It's a great award, and proud of him too. So, yeah. And we will have everything ready for you, and a little presentation that night. I think we'll have some representatives from the National Life Group. The local rep that nominated Rick from our nomination was a fellow named Ryan Benkin, and I believe he's going to be here for a photo opportunity.
Great.
Maybe one of those big checks that we can throw out.
That'd be
So
great.
I think it'll be a good time.
All right. That sounds great.
Thank you, ma'am.
I know, I've seen him run the summer camp for the kids and everything. They have a great time. He's really great
Yes.
with them. He's perfect to be an SRO, so I'm really thrilled he got this award. Anything else? No? And we'll have the certificate of recognition to Priscilla, or better known as Penny Jindra.
Yep. Penny recently retired, so to speak, after 18 years as an election judge, helping to preserve the integrity and the efficiency of our elections for many cycles. So I just would recommend that the commissioners extend their gratitude in the form of a certificate of recognition.
It's a pretty long run, 18 years. So Certainly she deserves a certificate of recognition. So
I'll
we'll-
give her a call and invite her to the next town hall meeting, and I'll have a draft for you to sign. I don't have it on the conference room table at the moment, but I'll have it in the next day or so.
Great.
Okay.
And then we'll have the certificate of recognition to Rabbi Cushy, which we've already discussed, so we'll finish signing that and handle that on Monday as well. After that, we will have the public hearing and the unfinished business on ordinance 833-24, amending Charter 165, the Comprehensive Plan and Development Regulations, Part 2 zoning, Article 2, Administration and Enforcement, Section 165-17, Economic and Community Development Commission regarding membership. And this is to just straighten out a conflict that was in the code versus the charter, and we're going to make them match.
Yep, it was introduced at the last work session, and it was a 5-Monday month, so we met the appropriate amount of time for the upcoming public hearing, which was advertised in the paper, and it is essentially just a housekeeping issue in terms of tidying up the language where it said one thing in the charter and something else in the code, and now it will be aligned. Yes.
Which will be terrific. All right. Any further discussion on that? All right. Next, under new business, we will have Resolution 1239-24, the holiday parking, the very popular temporarily suspending the parking fines and meter rates on all public streets in the town of Bel Air from November 28th, 2024 through January 1st, 2025. Is this you as well, Mr. Krantz?
Well, I'm going to draft it, but you basically just explained it in a nutshell.
That's it.
It is free parking on
Our Christmas
all
gift to businesses and
metered
people alike.
spaces on public streets. And Angela, did you want to add anything to add to that?
Thank you for your support of this each year. I think it's a wonderful thing to do for our community, to encourage them to shop locally with our independently owned stores, to frequent our dining establishments for their holiday parties, and it's just a great thing to do for our community and our businesses. And we will, as we did last year, through economic development with the assistance of our parking enforcement team, be putting the little placards and bows on all of the meters, and also doing advertising for the free parking initiative. Thank you.
Terrific. Anything else? I think it's just a nice little happy surprise when you get out to shop and you don't have to pay the meter and hunt around for those quarters. All right, next we will have Resolution 1240-24, amending Resolution 1225-24, restrictive parking zones. Kevin Small.
Yes, it's been a while since we've done any amendments to the parking ordinances. There's actually going to be two. One is to the restrictive parking zones. And if you can bring up Franklin Street first.
Yep. Parking, Franklin.
The Neighborhood Transportation Management Program Committee reviewed this and actually had a request to take a look at the area closest to Broadway. That portion of Franklin, which you can't really tell, there's like a little red line that I drew in there that is hard to find. But that little area is the area that the NTMP committee is recommending be prohibited for parking. Right now, it has parking by permit there. The rest of the street would remain as it currently is. If you look at, and if you can bring this up, Mike, on the parking by permit illustration. That's the PDF. Nope, you went too far.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's what's parking by permit. So you can see that one little portion that would be on the east side of Franklin doesn't have anything because it's prohibited parking. But the rest is parking by permit. And there's about 4 dwellings along Franklin that utilize parking by permit, but we still have everything that's on what would be the west side of Franklin from the, and now you take it, from the entrance to that little apartment building all the way down towards Gordon. And there's a little sliver of parking left on what would be the east side of Franklin. So that's what we're proposing.
Now, is this a result of turning issues with Broadway?
Exactly, and that's, yeah. We're looking at emergency vehicles, trash trucks, school buses that have a difficult time. Huh? Snow plows. Have a difficult time turning from Broadway onto Franklin. And when you have cars on both sides, that becomes a problem. There's also a little bit of an issue with regard to visibility at that corner. We want to pull the cars away from that corner a little bit more. But that's the main reason, is the turning movements.
So you're recommending no parking on both sides of Franklin,
Both sides of Franklin.
about down to like the driveway of the property on the right side? there?
Correct,
Of the-
correct. Yeah, if we wanted to take it one step at a time, we would probably remove the parking on the east side first. But if you've ever gone down Franklin, when you have
Oh, yeah.
cars parked on both sides,
Yeah,
there's
tight.
room for one car,
It's
and that's
tight.
it. So we figured even if you had room for two cars, it's barely enough for a large vehicle to drive straight. But if you're making a turning movement, that is even worse. Now, we'll try to make it as minimal as possible, and we'll probably go out there and do some measurements to make sure that we're not taking too much. But that's the area that we're talking about,
And both sides right now are parking by permit?
parking by permit, yeah.
Is that 24/7 or is that?
It
work
is-
hours? Just
It's
curious.
work hours,
Okay.
yeah.
Monday through Friday.
And one of the things is that, and I haven't had a chance to look this up, is that some of those permits appear to be old. The apartment there, building there, is likely some of those folks may have moved on. But the rest, they're relatively stable, and those folks we already know live in that and own those buildings.
Have you talked to the owners?
Actually, one of the requests came from the owner of the apartment building,
Okay, on the left there, the large building.
the large building on the left,
Right.
yeah. We didn't reach out to the one on the other side because they have their own parking lot.
Yeah.
It's,
Right.
and the rest of them really aren't affected because they're further down Franklin, and they have parking right in front of their house
Right.
or their structure. Okay.
I mean, that sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah, I mean, it actually has been hanging around for a while, and what precipitated it kind of floating to the top is that became the detour route for people who could not take left turns anymore on Gordon. And now, we never got any complaints, but that was a concern that people might end up getting their cars hit.
Right.
So if you can take it back to that same file and go to McPhail. Okay, McPhail Road right now, if you drive down McPhail, is parking on both sides, starting at the entrance to the emergency room campus and all the way to Tollgate Road. That area is, there's a lot of hazardous, interrupted visibility and some, people coming in and out of between cars. We haven't had too many accidents there, but the hospital fully intends and has told us that when they finish their construction, they want to get parking off of McPhail. And because it'll help also the emergency services get to their campus. Well, they're pretty much done. And that is something that they want to go ahead and move forward with. But they also understand that that the town has to take action on prohibiting cars on that road. So this would prohibit cars on street on McPhail between Tollgate and Route 24. And what will go in their place is the Upper Chesapeake's obligated to put in bike lanes both sides.
And do we know about, at the high water mark, about how many cars that would displace?
In general, we're looking at around 70, 60 to 70.
Okay.
I was also told that they have a parking that's on their campus in the neighborhood of 600 that is not currently obligated.
600.
That's what they told us. I think it's probably less than that.
That's not obligated.
Well, it's, yeah, what it is that they have a lot of, if you pan, oh, you can't. There is parking further down Route 24 on the
Correct.
campus that is not used.
On the other side of the current parking garage, it
Right.
just goes on, and they have
It's-
a shuttle bus there that brings.
We call it the Donald Duck Lot, you know, that's way down there. So.
It's just a longer walk.
Yeah, it's a very
Right,
long
so
walk,
that-
which is actually something for the hospital should be.
That's right. That's
Uh,
okay.
Well, they
Uh,
also have a shuttle too, do
They
they
do.
not? That takes you to and from that parking lot.
Exactly. Yeah, they're well prepared for this, and they anticipated this for several years, so.
Right.
Having driven down that stretch, we're talking about eliminating that parking. That is absolutely a death trap for people getting in and out of their cars, trying to walk across the street. It's frightening. I refuse to go that way anymore because of the parking.
One of our fears is that when you take the cars away, people will go faster. So we're going to try to see how that ends up. If it, we'll probably do some studies where we'll measure the speed to make sure if it does go up, then we will take the appropriate action on that road to calm the traffic. Anything else for that?
Any
Okay.
other questions for Mr. Small about? No.
Last one is right out in front here. That's Hickory. And Chuck, if you want to chime in anytime, it's basically to provide some legislation to allow temporary, quicker turnaround parking in front of the police department so that people don't park and take up all the spaces, and then someone who needs to have business with the police cannot find a space to park. So the idea that I'm looking at is doing two 15-minute parking spaces that would be 24/7. But I'll also,
And that's along Hickory.
that's along Hickory, right at the very end where
Gotcha.
the cursor is.
I mean, I think that will suffice. One of the concerns is during certain times, all of the spaces are being taken up, and we want to make sure that there's at least a couple if somebody needs to get into the police department for emergency purposes, and it's just not possible when all of those spaces are gone.
And when are they all filled up? Like when there's, that's what I was
Yep.
thinking.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
we've tried to informally address the issue, but it just doesn't seem to be working.
Well,
Yeah.
Probably
it's-
meeting rooms too. When the meeting room is used, you
Yep.
probably get,
Mhm.
because you have 8 or 10 people there, that's,
Right.
6, 8
Yep.
cars.
Yep.
One of the other options that we can look at instead of doing 15 minutes, because somebody will go in there, they'll park at the 15-minute zone, and
there'll be 20 minutes.
it'll be a lot longer than that. It could be that we would sign it, visitors to the police station only, or visitors to the police, so that it's directed, people understand it, and I think especially the churchgoers would also understand, oh, I can't park here.
Yep. My question was going to be, how many of these emergencies are only taking 15 minutes? And that's a legitimate question. I'm curious, Chief, if 15 minutes is enough, then it's enough.
Right.
But if it's not, then maybe the visitors to police
Yeah.
is a better approach.
I'm
Mhm.
rather open, because that was
Yeah.
something that we've had lots of discussion on.
Mhm.
We'll work on that. We'll work out the issue, but we just want to make sure something's there. And even if they come in for an emergency, we're not going to say anything if they're there longer than 15 minutes, so.
But you probably don't want people parking there if they're going to come in and pay their water bill or their tax bill or have some other business in the town hall. You want it really just for police visitors only.
You also don't want to dissuade someone who has a serious problem from thinking, oh, I'm going to be here longer than 15 minutes. So that
You're
might
right,
be
I
a
can't park
right.
here.
a concern
That's
as
true.
well.
Right.
Right, that's true. Good
So if,
point.
if we were to say visitors to the police department only and sign it that way, does that sound? Okay, because we can do that. And
Thanks, Kevin.
that would be all part of that same resolution. Under restrictive parking, we'll probably add a resolution for limiting some of those spaces on Franklin for parking by permit. The other question I had was, these are resolutions, and they normally are just introduced and passed. So I want to make sure I understand how you would like to proceed, whether or not you want to have it introduced, and then we wait 2 weeks for the next time, because there's no requirement for a public hearing.
I think for the police department, I don't think we would need to have a long wait. I think we can just do it right then and there.
Okay, because
The-
that's
the
the
other-
same, it'll be under the same
It'll be under the same.
resolution.
Because I was thinking under the, you might want to, if the property owners are made aware that we're doing this, and there's be an open hearing for them to come and discuss it, I'm good with that, then we can do it all in one night. And I'm trying to go down each one. And then there's the hospital. I mean, they're the ones that are asking for it, actually.
Right, there's no residences in that stretch of
For the
McPhail.
hospital, no.
Okay.
It's
so
really
the
more for
hospital
Franklin.
wants it, so it's
Yeah.
really not going to
Yeah,
be.
so I think we can, I'm okay with doing it all in one night. I'd just like to have those two residents, at least those two residents, be notified that we're having a hearing. Is that
Sure,
good?
the one at 105 Broadway and 83 Broadway, is that what you're talking? The
Yes,
two at the
those
corner?
two that are, right, that are on the corner of Broadway and Franklin.
We can do that, yeah.
Just so they know that it's happening, and there'll be a meeting for it.
Okay.
Open discussion for it, so.
Very good.
Yeah, I agree, because my only concern is if property owners that are going to be upset about changes in parking at their location, I would want them to have an opportunity to say something. The two in front of our building for the police department, I'm not concerned about
Right.
the public about that, and the hospital's the only interested party in the other one, and they want it, so I don't see any reason to,
And they want it, and they're supposedly providing alternative means for the.
right.
'Cause a lot of
A
those-
shuttle
I'm sure a
bus
lot of
and-
those are employees that park out there
I'm sure they
sometimes
are.
too, so,
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I was just thinking, as you were discussing the hospital, I don't know if there's been consideration at all about the funeral home that's there and whether their parking lot suffices for their needs, and do they
No.
ever have overflow onto
That,
McPhail?
Schumacher,
Because the
Chimenex.
hospital employees who are parking there have the option then to go to overflow staff parking. I don't know. I'm just.
I think it would be wise to let Chimenex know what we're proposing, so they have an opportunity, if they wish, to make us aware of any problem it's going to cause for them.
Sure. One thing to know is that is a condition of site plan approval dating back several years. So, and it was keyed at the completion of these two things. So while I'm on the side of accommodating them, I'm not sure how much choice.
Okay.
And
There
I
is.
would say, I think that funeral home, looking at it now, I think has even more spaces than McComas does. I mean, it's a very spacious
Yeah.
parking lot by quite a bit.
I would
so-
agree with that. I think it
Yeah.
is very spacious, and as I said, I'm not aware of any issues that it might cause. I just
Right.
didn't want that to be overlooked as this only being a hospital
Sure,
issue.
absolutely.
So,
Right, and
but if
also-
I didn't know about the site plan. Sorry, Kevin.
Yeah, also understand is that the section of McPhail that is closest to 24 does not allow on-street parking until you get down to the emergency room access to the, yeah,
So,
Yeah.
so.
right.
Then I would say it's not an issue. I just didn't
Okay.
have all the
But
information.
we'll still let them know, so that way.
I think it would
It's
just
just
be
good business.
polite.
Right.
I've never actually been to Chimenex when there wasn't a spot available, and I've been there a number of times, so maybe it doesn't happen, but I think it would just be neighborly, as Commissioner Taylor said, to just let them know this change in parking is coming.
Just to be clear, if I can chime in, Mike, admin director / town clerk, this will be one resolution then. We'll open it for public comment.
It'd be two resolutions,
Two.
one for restrictive parking,
Gotcha.
and then the second resolution is to eliminate some parking by permit area.
Okay. And we'll just have it open for public comment, and
Public
we'll
comment
reach
for
out to
each.
the affected community members, and we're not going to plan a special public hearing. in
No, we'll just
addition
take
to-
public comment on
Pub-
the item,
public
and if
comment.
somebody wants to come
Okay.
and raises some issues, maybe we'll change our mind or have to change the.
And you can always, you don't,
document,
there's
but
no obligation to vote that
we can
evening,
just
so,
table it and,
gotcha. Okay, sounds good, thank you.
all right. Anything else on the parking issues?
Yeah,
No?
sounds good.
All right, great. Next, an easy one, I hope, purchase of a sewer pickup truck with a crane. Mr. Stephen Klein.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Steve Klein, Director of Public Works. This is the last piece of equipment we're going to buy this year in the FY25 budget, and it's the purchase of a pickup truck with a crane. The pickup truck is used exclusively for the sanitary sewer section. It's the pickup truck that we use when we troubleshoot sewer backups in town, and you know, any kind of marking of the pavement for misutilities and things of that nature. Has a bunch of boxes on the back that carries the tools. It carries generators, anything we need to troubleshoot sewer backups in town. It's a 2014. It has only about 70,000 miles, but it also has 13,000 idle hours on it, because the machine has to sit there during sewer backups and leave it on so it can generate the lights, caution lights, as well as run the generator and so forth. So it's time. We've scheduled it to be replaced this year. The crane is something new that we've never had, but we would like to try to do it for a couple reasons. One is safety of our guys trying to lift out 3,000 pound pumps out of the pump station. So that's primarily what the crane is for. Most pump stations have two large pumps, one original and one backup, and they alternate each time they run. And they sit down at the bottom, and sometimes you have to pull them up 15 feet. And so this crane will actually accommodate that for this. So it'll be a much safer operation of getting those out of there. So we'd really like to add that crane this year. So it's a piggyback with Baltimore County from Apple Ford, just like the other two pickups that we got. And that's about it.
How much is that one going to cost?
This one is going to cost $101,000.
Wow.
The crane and the other setups with the boxes and things are as much as the truck, pretty much.
Wow, that's
You know,
amazing.
so we got the chassis. I have it right here. The chassis itself costs $52,500, and the darn crane and some of the other stuff with the strobe lights and all that stuff, another $50,000. So it's, you know, that's what it is.
I know, things are just so expensive. I just had to know what the number
Yeah.
was, though, before
And
next week.
we do get a discount with Baltimore County contract discount, you know, through that's how they
Right.
bid their projects out, with a discount. So we definitely got that discount. It's not much, but it's a discount, and it's a good price to get a F-350 pickup truck, four-wheel drive, for $52,000 these days. So I
That's
mean, it's
it.
a good
That is a
deal for
good
that
price.
truck. Yep. Is there any questions on that piece? Originally, we were trying to engineer it and see if we did need outriggers or if we needed dual wheels. Both would have made the truck more expensive, and we've finally come to a conclusion that because the pumps really only get to be about 3,000 pounds or so, we need to go in that direction. So
If you found that you did, could you put it on later? Do you know what I mean?
we
If you
probably could.
Find you
We
need the
probably
outriggers
could.
later to balance it?
Yeah, but we just don't think it will.
You're not going to get
The
there?
weight of, if we were lifting up big stuff that was like 10,000 pounds or something like
Mhm.
that, we would need that, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions about the pickup truck? All right, next we have the patrol vehicle purchase and the patrol vehicle accessory package purchase from the chief.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we're going to be bringing to you agenda items for consideration for the purchase of 2025 Ford all-wheel drive SUV police interceptors in the amount of $139,037. Sorry about that. For consideration. These will replace 2003 Ford F-350, a 2014 Mark Ford sedan, and an older 2000 Chevy previous covert vehicle. We're going to use two of the Mark vehicles to replace patrol. They're going to be on patrol, and one of the vehicles is going to be used for a command position. That's going to be used by the new position that you provided for in the FY25 budget for the command position. We are going to be piggybacking them off of State of Maryland contract and purchasing them again from Apple Ford. Seem to be giving a pretty good deal, and we are well under budget. The budgeted amount was $169,500 for that, so we're well under budget. So, any questions?
None for me. All right. Thank you, Chief. Go ahead.
Just on all two of those, all three of the purchases.
Yes, sir.
Pickup truck to the vehicle packages. They all came under budget. They're under what we budgeted for in the budget?
Yes, sir.
At or below that?
Yes.
Okay.
The total cost is $139,037, and the budgeted amount was $169,500. So,
Okay, good.
yes, sir.
On my truck, it is over because of the crane that was added. We only budgeted 60 for the truck, but we didn't include the crane because we were just gonna pull that out as a piece of equipment underneath the sewer budget. So it's more than what we originally
Okay.
had budgeted.
And we're it's like, yeah, it
It's
almost
true.
balances out, because you're like 30K under for yours, Chief, but I think they're different budgets or something.
And I had some,
Can't mix the two.
Yeah.
I
they are
take care of my
different
man
budgets.
here.
You cannot mix the two, because
Yeah,
one's
so I-
general
right.
fund, one's sewer
Different pots
fund,
of money.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
One's ARPA money, which is sewer
Gotcha.
fund, one is capital reserve.
and I was gonna say, the last two pickups that we purchased for the street section were under considerably as well, but can't mix and match.
Right.
It's hit or miss. Yeah.
So overall, though, are we
We're in
okay
good
with
shape.
the budget
Mhm.
Yeah.
to accommodate the increased cost for the crane?
And I could tell you, it's been a very hard thing to do the last couple of years with how things have been inflated
Mhm.
up so high,
Right.
you know, from the time we usually start putting these budgets together in November, which is next month,
Yeah.
and we don't make a decision to pull it on it until May or June, so it's tough.
I understand.
And I can guarantee that any over-budget items have been balanced somewhere
Somewhere. Well, that's
between
what
the
I just-
department head and Miss Moody, otherwise they would not be here before us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just take Chuck's expense card away for a while.
All right, anything further on those purchases? Staffing update, Mr.
Oh,
Krantz.
we had one more, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. Got one
Sorry,
more?
Madam Chair.
That's okay.
This is
Oh,
for
I
the
thought we did
yep.
the accessory package.
accessory packages for those three vehicles, and the accessory packages will include necessities like the light bars, sirens, grill lights, prisoner cages, weapon vaults, etc. Again, two of them are marked and one of them is unmarked. And we're purchasing this from an organization we typically use for this type of work, and it's called Global Public Safety Corporation, GPS. They do a great job. And the total amount is $64,322 for all of the accessory packages, and we will be piggybacking off of a PG County government contract for this purchase, and this one is also under budget. The total amount that we were allotted was $78,000 for that, so we're in good shape there also. Thank you.
All right. Any questions about the package? It's all the stuff that makes it really a police car.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, now we're on to the staffing update. Mr. Krantz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a brief update about staffing. We've successfully hired 2 part-time dispatchers in the police department.
Yes, sir.
We've recently had a laborer start today for the Public Works Department, and we have another laborer who's in processing in terms of their background checking. The only position we have published at the moment is event staff for the Bel Air Armory. We're looking to add one more person to the event staff pool of available people to help cover events. So if you know somebody who's interested in working evenings and weekends, you know, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you know, and sometimes evenings during the week, at clips of, you know, 4 to 6 hours at a time sometimes. Like, for example, this past Saturday, we had wrestling in the Armory, and we didn't have enough coverage, so we had a staff member volunteer, and that was about a 7.5-hour shift for someone to cover. Normally, we might be able to split that shift up into like 2 4-hour segments, but it is evenings and weekends, and we're looking for somebody responsible and has some customer service experience and someone who can potentially politely yet firmly interact with a customer, because often alcohol is sometimes served at the events, and you have to be able to negotiate that with a certain level of maturity at times. Yeah. But you also have,
Part-time? That would be a
Yep.
part-time job?
it is, and it's not many hours at all, probably, 16 hours a month maybe, because we currently have two event staffers who are already serving us very, very well. Mike and Emily do a wonderful job, and every now and then, Mike, Emily, or Julia might not be available, and we just like to have someone else on hand. So we've been having a difficult time finding a person, because we really do have, thank you for the question, so few hours to give at the moment. It's almost a side thought for somebody who might just want to pick up a couple extra hours a month, or who maybe enjoys town events and would like to just participate in a little bit of paid community service.
Got it.
And they could watch the wrestling for free.
They could. They could. They could. They could. You also have a report in front of you about upcoming appointed officials on our boards, committees, and commissions, so just take a look at that for your own information. And Commissioner Chance asked me to double check on a couple applications we might have for the senior commission, and I'll double check on that right after this meeting.
And on this, do I recall that Vaughn Lewis does want to stay on the Historic Preservation Commission?
No, he is declining.
He has declined, okay.
And by way of reminder, we have to have a town resident to fill his position.
Okay.
Not anybody outside, so they gotta be
Gotcha.
you can have a mix, but there's a minimum.
For town residents.
Of town residents, and he meets one of those, and with his absence, we're falling short.
Gotcha. All right.
I take it we don't yet have any takers?
I haven't received any.
Okay. Have we put it on our social media, put it on our webpage? Might be a good idea to see.
I can do that.
And
I have
and-
not at this
And list
point.
the requirements. First, they have to be
Yeah.
a town resident, but other than that, it's a pretty soft requirement. I think you just have to sort of, it certainly would be nice to have somebody who has experience in the area, but I think the basic requirement is that you be interested
Historic preservation.
in historic preservation. So there's no hard requirements like you have a degree in architecture or anything like that. It's, the town resident requirement is going to be the hard requirement that somebody must meet. But that's, I don't know if anyone had any other thoughts, but that was my thought, is to put it on our webpage
No,
and
Yeah,
get it on
that's a good
social
idea.
media and see if you have any friends that are interested
Right.
in historic pres. It's kind of an interesting area, and we have some very nice buildings in town, so.
We
Right.
are, the HPC is going through a series of trainings over the next couple of months. So they can
Good to
jump
get
into
everything
those
out.
trainings, that would be helpful.
It would be. All right.
It's-
The,
What about Jeannie Close for Cultural Arts? That's coming up in November. Has anyone approached?
I know that we've discussed at the last meeting if Jeannie was going to reapply, and I believe she is, or she may already have applied. So we'll check on that one. And Peg Lucas is another person that I believe is going to reapply, but I'll double check on that with Mike.
Oh, okay, she's a month later, right?
and I will check with Mike Semini on the tree committee, because he's coming up in early December. And then after that, we have sort of a break until the spring. We have a lot of them coming up. And how about Greg Adolph? Is he going to stay on the Board of Appeals?
No, he is.
Okay, he has also
not.
decided to retire.
Yeah, he had 15 years on. I talked with him, and
Right, that's who I was
he would like
think-
to pass on,
Yeah.
pass the baton on, and,
Right.
but if we're in a bind, he might stay as an alternate, but, we'll,
We
type
need to
of
look
thing,
for
if we
somebody.
if we're in a bind.
Is
But
any,
he doesn't want to
is there
do another
anybody,
term.
okay, is there anybody who's expressed any interest that anybody is aware of?
I don't know if, Pat Richards,
Mm.
if he mentioned something about it, but I don't know, he's the alternate right now.
Okay.
Do you know anything anymore, Kevin?
I know he reached out to me to see how to submit an application, and
Oh,
I
that's good.
think I got back with him. I'll double check, make sure I did.
Okay.
Double check, because that's another important spot that we,
Yes.
we don't want to be undercounted there, so, all right.
You and I both did.
Steve and I can
You-
check
you've
in on
reached out to him, so
Christie
did I.
Sudbury.
Okay, so we did.
I
Thank you.
bet she still wants to continue, but we do need to know, but yeah,
And
definitely.
Deb Hanley for senior citizens.
Yeah,
Committee for Citizens, Seniors and Citizens in Need.
yeah, Mary Chance said she had talked to her and thought she was going to submit an application again,
Oh, you
so
did, Mary?
she's, yes,
Okay.
she said that
Right.
earlier, I heard her say that, so I think what we have is the Historic Preservation and Board of Appeals spots kind of to fill, and the rest of them just confirm that those folks that we're pretty sure are interested are still interested, and then we should be sort of clear until March.
Right.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Krantz. Anything else that we need to attend to on the staffing?
Nope, we're all good.
All right, and then we next have the calendar. We've all gotten a new calendar, and it certainly looks like a very busy October and November.
Just with regards to the calendar, if I may add, Ruth did put out the December calendar. It might be a little early, so she marked on the top that some events may be tentative. So just don't carve that in granite at this moment. So just as an idea, but just as a remember, in the second meeting, December and the 16th, we will have the time capsule closing ceremonies here in conjunction with the town hall meeting on December 16th.
And I did have a thought about the capsule closing. I thought it might be nice to have a picture for posterity of the current board that we put in before it closes, and then we can nominate Commissioner Taylor to be there at the next opening. To be present, to recognize, the board that was here for the 150th. At 70.
Well,
It's 70.
At 70.
Right.
You'll still be a kid.
If he's available, you just don't know. You know.
If he's available. He might
That's
be
right.
busy on that day.
Could be,
but,
50 years life expectancy, you'll be up around 90.
I won't say.
well, he should still be here, but he could be busy.
Right.
He could
Oh.
have a prior engagement, but
we'll-
I'll
make
sure to clear the calendar.
clear the
Right.
clear the
Put it on
calendar.
your
We are going to
calendar
count
now.
on you to be there for the opening of the
right.
capsule, and the picture ought to be in better shape than some of the pictures were this time. Since I really love the job that was done on that box. I think it is really terrific, just perfect for this. So, also I see missing off the calendar is tomorrow morning's Coffee with a Cop. From 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. at Newberry
That's right.
Bakery. You can see your favorite police officers and get
And
a
our
coffee and a
commissioners.
terrific
Yep.
donut over there. I mean, they have the best stuff. So
Mhm.
I know I'm planning to stop by. I'm sure you'll have lots of, Commissioner Taylor will be there. You'll have plenty of folks. Also tomorrow evening, which is now on here, is the 6:30 to 8:30. Pack 313 of Weeblos is going to be here. I will definitely be here. Anyone else is invited that would like to join me, the more the merrier. This is an all-girl group of Weeblos, and for their concentration in government this year, they've picked the 19th Amendment, which was an important one for women. So I'm looking forward to talking to them tomorrow. They should be around 9 or 10-year-olds, kind of, so that'll be great. So anybody that wants to come, come.
I would love to, but I cannot.
That is okay. I will have Commissioner Taylor here with me. All right, and of course, Mike will be here because he runs the slideshow. Cross that off my list. Okay. Any other calendar items? I know we'll have some as we go along. In December, will probably be changing as we get closer to the holiday season. So now we're up to miscellaneous, the Verizon franchise agreement update. And who?
Yep,
Mr.
that's me.
Krantz, there you go.
You may or may not remember, but you did pass a resolution several months ago, maybe even over several months ago, that gave authority to the town administrator to engage in negotiations for, redoing the Verizon franchise agreement for cable services. So the agreement has since been extended twice. The most recent extension now is into March 31st of next year. So just want to give you an update about that. As we get closer to negotiating language, we do have a copy, the first draft copy from Verizon, so we're making good progress on that. It is quite extensive with a number of unexpected changes, especially the term. So we'd like to have another long-term agreement, but there seems to be a little bit of pushback on that. So we're starting to look at that in conjunction with some legal aid that we have in negotiating these types of franchise agreements. So it's on the table. I just wanted to alert you to it. And as we have some language to present, we will likely at that time have a hearing that would be open to the public, so the public can come in and be made aware of it and provide any feedback that they may have.
What kind of term is Verizon looking for?
A very short one. I think we're running off of 15-year or 10 or 15-year agreement at the moment, and the trend seems to be 5 years or less.
Wow.
Which is significant, and I can empathize with their position because with changing technologies, who knows how television is going to be delivered in the future, but nevertheless, we would like to get the best term that we can.
And are they making any requests to change our percentage?
Haven't dove into the contribution side with Ms. Moody yet, but I don't see any significant change there at all.
And I'm not 100% sure, but I don't know that it really matters to them because they just put it on the bill. Whatever percentage
Yeah.
we, come up with,
Right.
they just add that to the bill. So it's not money out of their pocket.
And this is for both internet and
No,
television?
no, no.
right?
No, cable,
Just cable television.
cable TV.
TV,
Yep.
not internet.
No, sir.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, we've actually retained a separate law firm to review this, a law firm that deals with these agreements more specifically. Liz had referred us, Aberdeen, I believe, is using the same law firm to look at their agreement as well.
I did remember that. I think I talked to Liz about that, and it was an area that really we needed some expertise in.
Right, it's very technical.
Very. So I'm glad we got somebody on board to take care of that.
So more to come, but just a heads up at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Krantz. I appreciate that. Any more
Okay.
questions about the Verizon agreement? All right. Next, we have the audit policy for the Town of Bel Air partner organizations. Ms. Moody.
Yes, ma'am. Does any of the commissioners need another
I
copy?
brought mine with me.
I have a few if you need it. Jake, I did get your email. I thought it would be easier to answer it here than in an email, but
That's why I wanted to give you 4 hours
Perfect. no worries, got it. So Jake had a couple of questions. One of them being, would only the fire department be liable for an audit? No, there would be actually 2. So the volunteer fire company and the Bel Air Rec Council. Yes. So they would fit under the parameters to require an audit, and they already are doing or having an audit performed. So wouldn't be an issue for either one of them. With regard to compilations and reviews, the Bel Air Alliance, the Boys and Girls Club, LASSOS, Independence Day Committee, and the Historical Society would all fit under those categories. Right now, the Alliance is already doing a compilation. Boys and Girls Club is doing an audit, which doesn't surprise me because of the amount of probably grant revenue that they receive. Independence Day does a compilation. The Historical Society does a review. LASSOS does an audit. Again, there's grant monies involved there as well. So again, that we're not asking any of them to do anything more than what they're already doing. Some of them would be a step down, but they have to have an audit done, not for us, but, you know, for their books anyway, for other reasons, so they would just continue that. Any of the other ones, so, the Army Alliance, which is kind of why this whole came to fruition here and discussion, with their 2,500 would just fall under we would just ask for a balance sheet and an income statement. The Harford County Education Foundation, they're already doing a compilation. I honestly don't know if they're doing it specifically for us or not, but theirs is $1,000, so it wouldn't even be any kind of documentation required. The Beller Farmers Market, while that's not a direct contribution to them, we do pay bills on their behalf. So we would ask for a balance sheet and an income statement, which they do anyway. And then the Harford Artists Association, we provide marketing money to them, so that is direct funding. But that would fall under a balance sheet and an income statement, which they would need anyway for their tax return. So I don't think we would be asking any of our organizations for really something that they're not already doing, and it's going to make it, I think, more palatable for some of them when the funding levels are not as high, so why should it be the same requirement for others? Other than that, did anybody else have any other questions or changes that they'd like to see made?
No, just thank you for answering even more thoroughly than what I posed. And I really commend you on coming up with a solution that solves both goals of a, you know, legitimate structure that works and makes sense and doesn't put anybody out.
Mhm.
Oftentimes it's hard to do both of those things
It
at the
is.
same time. And so thank you
Mhm.
very much for coming
Sure.
up with something that does.
Yep.
I think you were the only person that had enough information to do both those things. Because we certainly don't want to have somebody spend $2,500 when we give them $2,500. It's, you know, not our goal at all, so.
No.
But we do need to certainly, you know that the money's going to
Yes.
the sources, the funds that are being used in
Mhm.
accordance with what we want, so
Yep.
I
We
think
still
this
wanna
is
be
terrific.
Prudent in what we're
Right.
doing
Okay.
with funding other organizations, but not so overreaching that it's making it difficult for them.
Right, so.
So, Lisa, just a clarification on
Mhm.
the last paragraph about the timelines for documentation. So
Mhm.
if this is like the first time we're giving a donation to someone or giving them funds, when would they have to have their documentation to you?
So we're asking them to provide it no later than 180 days after their fiscal year end. So some of them have fiscal year ends at June, some of them have fiscal year ends of December. I don't believe we
So-
have any March.
But when will we provide them with the funds? Before that? After?
No.
Yeah,
No, they have to provide the report to
Documentation
us
first.
first, and that's always been the case.
Okay.
So we wouldn't change that. We would want their documentation, whatever category they fall under, first before we provide the funding. And all of our current
Okay.
organizations know that already because that's how it's
Okay.
worked. If you look at the current language, it really didn't make sense, because it's saying that a copy needs to be issued to us by March 31st of each year. It doesn't make sense when you have a different fiscal year ends. So it's not the same
Right.
for everyone. But there are some organizations that may have difficulty with 90 days. So that's why I made it 180, just to make it easier. Like
Is-
today, I received the Rec Council's audit. We're at exactly 90 days after year end. But the Historical Society, they wouldn't be able to make that 90-day
Right.
time
Okay.
frame. Okay,
All right.
okay.
That answers it. Thanks.
You're welcome. Alrighty. Well, then what we'll do is, it's an internal policy, so we'll make those changes to the internal policy, and I know, we will obviously make the people at the Army Alliance aware of these changes.
Okay,
Perfect.
All right, thank you all.
great.
All right. Next, we have the Cultural Arts Commission Annual Report. Angela?
Thank you, Madam Chair. At their meeting on September 18th, the Cultural Arts Commission liaison, Kat Buttram, presented the commission with their annual report for FY24, and I wanted to share their accomplishments with all of you as well for last year. Annually, for the last 15 or so years, certainly in my tenure, the Cultural Arts Commission has received $8,350 through the town budget. They divide their annual budget into two primary accounts, marketing and public art. The commission also has two programs which support their efforts to contribute to and promote cultural arts within the town of Bel Air. They have their performing and visual arts sponsorship program and also a public art sponsorship incentive program. In FY24, the marketing account supported events planned by the Cultural Arts Commission themselves and also events through their sponsorship program. Sponsorships were provided to local arts-related nonprofits through their sponsorship program for the following events. Authors and Artists, which is a wonderful event that's coming up on November 2nd, and that's been going on, I think this is the 8th year. Ballet Chesapeake's Abridged Nutcracker performance, Hartford Artists Association's Take a Chance on Art Lottery, and the Hartford Education Foundation's Plein Air Art Exhibit. The Cultural Arts Commission also planned several of their own events that were funded through this account, and those included a living history performance at the Armory of Frida Kahlo as part of the Arts Across Hartford initiative in September of 2023. That event was offered free to the public, and about 70 people attended on a weeknight. They also planned a big band dance event at the Armory that had over 130 attendees on a weeknight last March of 2024. That marketing account also supported the first prize for a juried artist at the Maryland Center for the Arts Quick Draw competition during their Plein Air Festival last September. We've done that first prize award for a number of years for that first that plein air event, the Quick Draw. In addition, the funds were also used to purchase giveaway items for the Bel Air 150 Then and Now event, branded shopping bags that were handed out at the Bel Air Festival of the Arts and also the Authors and Artists event. And print marketing materials such as a rack card and brochures that were used to hand out at those events as well. The public art account is used to support public art projects that are commissioned by the Cultural Arts Commission and also to fund public art sponsorship projects through their program for local businesses who wish to add public art to their property. No sponsorship applications were received through that program in FY24. However, those funds were used to commission a piece of public art for the lobby of the Bel Air Police Department, which turned out beautifully, and also to provide signage for artwork that was donated to the Bel Air Town Hall Community Room by local artist Alice Humphreys, and also for the repairs and signage for the mosaic heart that's located in front of Town Hall that had to be relocated during construction. The Cultural Arts Commission is proud of the events and public art that they have brought to the community in FY24 and of the local arts organizations that they've been able to support with that funding. And we wanted you all to be aware of everything that they accomplished on a shoestring budget. So thank you. Any questions I can answer, I'd be happy to.
It's a great group. I'm honored to be part of and sitting in as representing the commissioners, and they work hard. They take their duties very seriously, and I think the work that they've done in the past has just been remarkable. And I think Chief and the other deputies at Town Hall or at the police department are happy with the mural that was presented. So. Yeah, it's a good group. Good group.
Thank you, Commissioner Chance.
Okay. Next, we have the PFAS Task Force, Harford County's public water tests safely below the EPA limits, which is great. Mr. Klein?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Steve Klein, Director of Public Works. Eddie had requested that I attend and join the Harford County Drinking Water PFAS Task Force, which I did, and the task force had their first meeting last month, and which I attended. The task force includes representatives from Harford County government, Harford County Public Schools, and the 3 municipalities, as well as privately owned water providers such as Maryland American Water. The primary goal of the task force is to coordinate among all government entities in Harford County to align efforts for the detection and removal of PFAS from drinking water supplies in order to ensure that the public responses are effective, timely, efficient, and collaborative. In addition, a website will be built and constructed pertaining only to PFAS for all Harford County citizens to utilize for information. I guess several big key points that I took from the meeting that I'd just like to share with you real quickly tonight is we're in great hands. The people from Harford County are very professional. There's many scientists, and they're on top of this. And they've already taken care of their problems in their wells, and they're already treating them to remove the levels to such a rate that they're not considered worrisome anymore. Some other municipalities and so forth are not so lucky. It's also worth noting that Maryland American Water Company, though invited, did not attend the first task force meeting. And I kind of just personally feel that I think they feel that because they're such a big conglomerate water company that's all over the United States, that they're already on top of the issue. However, with that said, I think it's important for us to nudge them a little bit and get them involved. I don't know if they're getting advice from their legal counsel that they might say something wrong or, give some wrong information out that might be worrisome legally. I'm just not sure. But the next time I see those folks, I'll let them know that we would appreciate them coming. So what my plan is we do have, I believe, another meeting this Thursday, and I will be attending all meetings. And after each meeting, when I get the minutes, I will supply you with a copy of the minutes, you, the town commissioners, as well as staff, to bring you up to speed with what they're finding. Right now, the first thing of business was for everyone to take down the information from each well that they have and how many gallons a minute they could pump and things of that nature. Many haven't done testing yet on their wells, so they're not really sure. Fortunately, Town of Bel Air and Havre de Grace are in a better situation because the majority of our drinking water emanates from rivers, or in our case, the stream down at the bottom there. So PFAS are harder to detect or don't get into running water as well as they do in welled water. So we're at an advantage like that, and Havre de Grace, of course, takes most of their water from the Susquehanna River. So basically, that's it. Sent you all today an email, and it included a larger summary, and it also included some helpful information about deadlines and things of that nature. One thing is that it's not until 2027 where they actually have to test the stuff, and not until 2029, I think, until they're actually treating to remove the PFAS from that. And, of course, once Maryland American does that, of course, everyone knows the cost to do so will come out of our pockets, the users of the water. But I think that it's not a situation that is so imminent that we should be very, very concerned, because it is very low levels. We're talking in the trillions, 4 parts per trillion. And one of the reasons why this has recently come to fruition or to come to the forefront is that in the past, the scientists did not have ways to test down to that level of testing, down to the trillionth. So now they're able to do that and able to come up with levels that they feel need to be adequately addressed. So like I said, I sent you an email with all this information. I feel confident that we're in the right place. It's good that I'm there. I promise I'll do everything in my power to gather as much information as possible. If you have questions that I'm not able to answer, I will surely bring them to the task force meetings, and there's 20 people around the room that are much more well-versed on this stuff than I am. So I will ask those questions and bring back the answers you need.
Thank you. I think it's a great step forward that
Right.
the county has a task force, and I'm very glad that they've included the municipalities in it because
Yeah.
it's a concern to everybody that, lives and works here.
Yeah, it was a really good first meeting, and I learned so much. Of course, my finger hasn't been on this that much, but one of the most interesting things that I learned is, a couple high schools in town have recently had elevated levels, and that's what kind of brought this all out into the media. Well, one of the main reasons that the scientists and everything at this meeting felt that those two schools had issues were because they were in close proximity to a firehouse.
Wow.
And the firefighting stuff that they use, the foam and so forth like that, gets into the ground near their wells and causes it.
And
So-
just to be clear, those are not in the town, those are out in the county, correct?
That is correct. They're in Hartford County. They're actually my alma mater at Falston. The middle school and the high school actually do have elevated levels. So,
Yeah. Well, thank you, Steve. I'm personally very glad that you're representing us. I know
Yeah.
that you are the guy I want to have from Bel Air in that room. So thank you very much for
Yeah.
taking that time out of your schedule to do that.
thank
Yeah.
you. No, I'm very interested, and I'll do my best to get you the best reports as possible.
So, Steve, I had a couple questions.
Sure.
When I was at MML,
Yes.
they had a big session on this.
Okay.
And I know there are several lawsuits going on, and I know American Water was not part of those lawsuits because they said they were going to, because they're going after the chemical companies.
Yeah.
I think there was like 3M and DuPont, and I
Yes,
forget
those
who the
two.
other one, there were three that they mentioned, and American Water, because they're bigger than just Maryland, was going to do a separate suit, because I was talking to the reps
Mhm.
there about that, so it
That was
may-
not much, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt, but there was not much discussion about that other than the fact that I believe Aberdeen and Havre de Grace are parts of that lawsuit.
Okay, yeah, they may be part of the class action suit against those, but I think American Water did not participate in that.
Right.
And a lot of those are just, and I understand most of the lawsuits, what they're trying to recoup is the funding to mitigate the PFAS in
Yeah.
that. So that would be the solutions, whether it be activated charcoal or the
Yes, osmosis.
osmosis, or
Yes.
the ion exchange, or whatever the other technologies are. There's a couple of them out there.
Yeah, they're throwing
To
all
be
that
able to
kind of
do that.
information out, and some of it's going over
Right.
my bald head, and I'm just like trying to write notes real quick, and,
Right.
but the minutes and so forth, I think in the future will provide good
So-
information.
Right, so hopefully it may not be too much of a burden on the customers if they get the suit
You know-
to mitigate.
I've seen some preliminary numbers, and these are rough numbers, and it's really hard because you're matching oranges against apples and stuff. But I don't think this is like a $20 million endeavor for Maryland American to treat the 7% of the water
Right.
out of the Bonham well. I'm thinking like 750 to 1.5 million in that range,
Right.
and that's just a guesstimate on my part. But it's not going to be
Right.
too bearsome on us.
Okay. Right, yeah, I don't know the extent of the problem, because I thought that there was more than just, I thought we were taking more water out of the Bynum well than what you're saying, like 7% or whatever. But the other one was that also that, it'd be nice to have Maryland American to give us, what's their strategy, what's their plan? We're gonna meet, the MDE and the state want, and the EPA want certain things done at this time. They have their gates that you have to do, like setting up the monitoring and doing the continuous monitoring and all that kind of stuff. If they've met it, can they just tell us? What is their
Yeah.
plan? What's their status to meet each of those deadlines?
I think the last time I reached
And
out,
just-
Commissioner, we got a very vague answer that we will meet the requirements of the EPA.
Right, and I saw that in your notes, that you put that in there, and I'm like, okay, but specifically, which deadlines and when you're gonna meet it?
Yeah.
I would like to know that. And
Well,
also, which technology you're pursuing.
Yeah, I will definitely, and they might not know yet, but I will definitely
Sure.
correspond a letter to them and have Eddie review, and we'll send it out and ask them, see what they
Right.
say.
Just
Yeah.
to keep us informed about what they're doing and their progress to meet the deadlines and to meet the mitigation measures.
Sure,
know.
absolutely.
Okay, great,
Yep.
thanks.
All right. Anything else on the PFAS issue?
Just don't ever ask me how to pronounce PFAS.
And it covers a whole bunch of, because I was looking for them. They are in the Maryland American Report, but I was looking for the letters PFAS, and it like actually refers to a number of
Yes.
different compounds that are referred to that way, and it was there. I did eventually find it, but it's an education just learning all the terms, so good luck. And I know I got the email from you today, and thank you for that. It's helpful to keep on top of that. All right, now the big one of the evening, discuss the sign regulations regarding branded construction materials and equipment. Kevin Small.
Yes, thank you, Mike. Appreciate you putting up that's the,
Good.
The banner.
I didn't see it, and there was a lot of talk about it, and I was like, I would really like to see a picture, so that's terrific. So
the
now we know
banner
what
that
we're looking
launched
at.
1,000 emails.
That's the
Yes.
one. That's the one.
So that was put up as what the developer says is a shield, a safety shield for people who are working up there, so that the debris does not fall down on the sidewalk or on the street. We consider that a sign. It meets our code. It doesn't mean that the commissioners can't change the code so that it becomes a little bit more flexible for construction folks. I will just briefly go over what our code is, and then I'll go over what the Aberdeen, Havre de Grace, and Harford County's code is. Ours is any property in town is allowed a 24 square foot sign, which without a permit, to be placed on a construction site. And that can ostensibly display the architect, the lender, the contractor, whatever person who's related to that the project. That also can, that doesn't mean that it's, the code says an additional sign, so that there's also another temporary sign that property is entitled to, but it requires a permit. So that's something that, like if you have two signs, you can do two. The code allows for two signs on the property. And that's how Bel Air does the construction sites. Harford County allows 3 signs, but they limit them to 16 square feet each. And they are, these can be contractors, again, professional consultants, or lending institutions. They kind of are specific about it. I'm not sure they really care, but that's what they reference. So theirs is, I think Bel Air's and the counties are related in terms of the language, but so they do reference a property under construction. Havre de Grace and Aberdeen just used their temporary sign permit requirements. So Havre de Grace allows for a 32 square foot banner no more than 90 days, and if they have 2 banners, meaning if they have 2 frontages, you're at a corner, they get as much as 50 square feet. Aberdeen is 1 banner between 12 and 24 square feet, and it just depends on the underlying zone that they're in. Right now there are, and I'll just kind of go over some of the questions, Madam Chair, that you talked about. If somebody is putting up new insulation, that insulation will have the product's name on it. Tyvek, Allied, some of these other things that are attached. We don't count any of that. It's part of the construction of the building. It's part of the building materials. And that goes for the same for silt fence or anything else that is part of the construction process. if somebody is parked in front of the property and they have signage on their truck or on their van, we don't count that because that's part of the construction they're there for that purpose. If they were to park that van or that truck in a conspicuous location and leave it there for a week, that might pique our interest to go talk to them about it. We've had properties that are, especially related to election signs, where they would park on the corner of a very busy two roads, and they would leave it there for a month. That was something that we would notify the property owner and say, you have to move the vehicle. If you have a vehicle that's in front of your place of business, and I'll give the example of Zips Cleaners, because everybody sees that Zips van out in front of their property. Zips is a tenant in the Main Street Center. They have their van out front that they make deliveries, but they also park it conspicuously so that it can be used as a sign. We do not go after them. If they put it, across the street or somewhere else where it was off of their property and it was in a conspicuous location for signage, then we would probably notify them, actually notify the property owner. So this debris shield, which is referenced in several emails, was something that falls really in between what is construction materials and what is a banner for advertising. It's something that we really don't have as far as staff. Had to make an interpretation. The sign code says anything with lettering or with a logo is a sign. And we made the interpretation that was not building materials. It was there to advertise the contractor's business.
Let me just stop you for a minute, but a silt fence is the closest thing I can think of to that, because a silt fence also is not going to be integral to the building, like the Tyvek siding is going to be covered by siding, become part of the building itself.
Right.
It's another thing that, you can put your name on, and I see them on job sites all the time. I'm sure they're important for keeping things from blowing off. How are they different?
We consider them as being, again, an integral part of what's required to be done as part of the construction. We have a requirement to put silt fence in, and they have to put the silt fence in. No one has reached out to these folks. Now, this is a safety measure, and so it makes sense that it's up there. But nobody says that it has to have advertising on it.
Nobody says you have to have advertising on a silt fence.
On silt fence either, and there's a lot of silt fence out there that doesn't.
I've seen a lot without, but I know that the trend is whatever I have to buy to do my job, if I can put my name on it, I'm going to. And
Right.
I understand that. So we wouldn't bother a silt fence that had somebody's name screened on it, but we would that. And that's
Right.
that's
And-
my question. What's the difference between those two things?
And
You have to have a silt fence?
that the county or the town requires a silt fence to be installed. We consider that integral to the building of the site. Now, we can do the same for here, but just know there's unintended consequences part of that.
Those are what I'm concerned about. That particularly would not offend me. It's a building under construction. It doesn't, no offense to the people that are, Mr. Goddard, I'm sure, is watching, but it doesn't look that pretty with the scaffolding up and, everything that's going on there, but it will when it's done. But I would accept that Roland Slate Roofing is just part of hey, there's construction going on. It doesn't look pretty now, but it's on its way to looking better.
Right, and if that's the way I can propose to, if that's the way that the commissioners feel, then I can propose to revise the construction definition so that it includes
But I wouldn't want to see a
materials
billboard
associate-
up there on that scaffolding.
See, that's the problem, is
I know.
when Hartford Mall comes in,
Right.
they could attach a banner to the side of their building and claim that it's for some safety measure. And then I'm getting in arguments with folks. Of course, this didn't prevent me from getting an argument on this
I was
one.
gonna say, the argument's gonna come no matter what.
If I had a preference, I wouldn't count any of this. I would just let construction do what it
Go.
does. But I'm not the arbiter of the aesthetics of the town as much as maybe you are. You may, because those unintended consequences, if somebody comes along and wants to do some crazy things, because you can't regulate what the content of the sign or the safety measure is something that you'll have to just
The
understand.
unintended consequences do concern me, because sometimes if you give people an inch, there's a mile taken. That does not bother me. I would look at it as it's probably helping keep some debris from rolling off there. It may not keep everything from falling off that roof. I would personally try to avoid walking in anywhere close to that, so I didn't get, bonked on the head with a hammer or something, but I could see it as being helpful to debris falling off of there. And it's not going to be there long, because that roofing job is not going to go on
And
forever.
that was one of the things that not to get too far into the exchange with the developer, but this was something that was going to be up there for maybe a week or two. And I said, look, I'll send you a letter. You can put it in your in basket. And then 2 weeks from now, the banner will be gone and the issue will be moot. But I think that.
And I understand your position on that, but I also understand the other position on that. I'm like a rules follower, I want to know what the rules are, and I will follow them. So I understand that people want the rules changed to reflect what reality is, so they don't have these repeatedly happen with, projects in town that they're, now it's this sign, now it's that silk fencing, now it's the, the banner that the roofer has. And I kind of get that. I mean, I do think that our rules should reflect what reality is. If we're going to have roofers with those kinds of things, you don't want to be sending out letters like for no reason. I think it just kind of engenders a disrespect for the whole system, and then some people will be serious about it and like, oh, I'm not going to put that up because I got a letter last time, and so I don't want to do that.
And
now I have to do something
this
else.
issue is temporary. It's going to go away. And that's where I don't really have a problem with any signage associated with construction. If somebody wants to put 4 signs along there that has the architect, the engineer, the lender, and the contractor,
And sometimes
I'm
I've
fine
seen
with that.
those on the state projects particularly, and I never really knew what our signage rules were as far as size, but I'm pretty sure those signs violated all of them because they were giant with the, like the Maryland flag in the background and brought to you
Yes.
by Community Housing and Development and who, the architect, like a whole bunch of information. I mean, they're
And
big.
some of those are required because
Yes.
they provided money.
Yes, so you have to
And they
post
want to be
it
advertised.
with where the money came from because they want credit for that, and, your government at work, and I understand that too. So we don't want to have rules that we don't want to, or, it's difficult, we say no, and the state says it's got to be posted.
Right.
We don't want to get into that.
Again, I don't want to be in that position, and I want to be clear. If we took that section of the code and removed it and put it under signs that are accepted or exemptions, I'd be fine with that. I'm just having to deal with the code that I have in front of me.
And I understand that. And you did get a complaint about this sign.
Yep.
It wasn't like you went out at lunch and were looking for something to, use up your entire Friday
Yeah.
afternoon of phone calls and emails. It was a complaint that you got. So, you have to do something about that. And my sympathies for that Friday afternoon.
And we could add safety and security because I
Yes.
received an application today for a fence around a proposed project that is 6 foot tall and 100 feet long, 600 square feet. A lot of that, can you bring that up? A lot of that is not lettering. It is images. Not that one, PDF.
Right.
So you have these pretty pictures, and that's great. I'm all right with ignoring that. But I do need direction from the commission so that I can
And I don't want to
properly.
use the term ignoring that, because we're not going to ignore anything that's a violation. We just want to make sure that whatever our rules are kind
I-
of somewhat mesh with like what has to happen when you're building
Well,
something.
and to say that,
Or
I would
redoing a
want to
roof.
have the code changed so that we accepted those things. So if there was images on a sign, but it did not have logo and did not have lettering, then it was not a sign. And I'm okay with that if the commission is okay with that.
So,
If you can bring up Harco,
because my understanding is it's words that make it a sign.
right. But a lot of
And- but a
times you look
logo
at
as
some of
well?
these things, are those images advertising? Well, yes, they are. They definitely are. So is that something that is, that meets the code or not? I just need to make sure that we revise the code so that it's clear.
I agree
And that I can
100%
follow
on that. I want clarity in a rule. I mean, I used to call the
But
vague
in-
things the Full Employment Act for attorneys, because you just argue all day about, you know, what it means, and it wastes everybody's time and many people's money. We don't want to do that. So those things, are they a violation?
Those are actually not a violation because they are signage that's
In the window.
attached to the interior of the window.
Got
And
it.
it does not go over 20% of the
current
total
law, right.
window for the building.
Okay.
But it is one of those things that people notice.
Right.
And there's more of those in town.
Right.
And that's becoming the trend.
So might there be a percentage threshold? I mean, you talk about, you know, a great big project having a massive banner all down the side. I mean, if you say you can't cover more than 50% of the footprint of the side of the building that the sign is on, you know, would
Well,
it-
I'm trying not to get too,
too granular?
well, yeah, because then all I get is arguments.
Sure.
Can you go back to the one previous, Mike?
That
I
have
don't mind
too
looking at those and
much.
saying, okay, just the lettering.
So
See,
in other
so
words,
I would-
only the lettering portion would count
Yeah,
as a sign?
that,
so
the
that
white
has
with
to
all the
be-
logos, that entire thing would have to be a sign.
Okay.
But the rest,
And-
it would just be the lettering.
Right.
If
I mean, I
you-
like, well, when you look at a construction site, and I think on this project, he's talking about putting up a fence, and then this would basically hide the construction site with an image of what they're building.
Right.
Right.
Okay?
Which is, I
You're
think,
not really
very popular.
advertised, he's not putting up there, you know, $2,000 a month and starting doing that kind of stuff, you know, for saying how to sell it. And to me, that looks nicer than the construction site. Because
think I
it's gonna
agree
be a
with you.
mess until they get landscaping in there at ground level. You'll see it above, but you won't see it at ground level. I don't mind that.
Well,
And, you
this
know,
is going to be attached to a fence that's going to surround the
correct,
site.
that's what I mean, that's
So
surrounding the
it's-
site. I think
it's a
that's a good
screen.
idea. It's a screen,
Yeah.
yes.
And aren't
I
those
don't
pretty
certainly mind that.
common on construction sites? I mean, I thought I've seen those everywhere too. I don't know if it's got to do with they don't want people to see the equipment they got back there to steal it, or if it just looks prettier, or it's an ad, or it's all of the above.
To be honest, I don't know too many instances since I've been here where these have been proposed in the town of Bel Air.
Yeah.
Probably because most of the construction sites are so small
Correct.
that
Right.
they don't,
These look like a big city type
And there's-
of a large
that's where you see
project
these,
that
is in the
you
big
have
city.
these.
Because they don't want anybody
Right.
driving by going, oh, I'd like to have that, you know?
Well, the other thing I've seen in the big cities also is that they will drape that through the whole building, even though the building is just steel and, just steel and holes. They will put a drape over
Yeah.
that shows what the facade's gonna look like, and that's how they hide the site. Say, this is what we're gonna look like. And you don't see just all that steel and superstructure of an empty building.
Or the
and-
dishwashers that are sitting there.
Well, they haven't even gotten that far yet. I mean, it's
Just
just,
completely.
And
there's
there's-
just, and I don't mind that, but how do you make it so, I don't want to say, start advertising for vacancies and, rooms of this and,
In other words, how do we keep it to like an attractive wrap for the construction site and not become a tacky ad?
So there's several
Yeah, and
options.
that's the part we gotta
I
run
get
into,
it.
we can't legislate what the content may be, but. and
Right,
that's-
you cannot
that's the-
legislate content.
And that's the slippery slope we got here.
There's several options you have. One is, you can say anything, any graphics, any sign associated with a construction site is exempted. And we can have that in our code, and then people, I don't think you're going to see craziness, but you might, because those are the unintended consequences.
Yeah, you're right.
And
Or
those
you
are
s-
probably not cheap to put up either.
Right.
Sure,
Or you accept any images and you say, those are not counted. I would
Currently,
suggest,
would we count the images on that sort of thing?
what's that?
Would we count the first one on standard on bond, the first panel, would we count the image on that as part of the square footage of the sign?
We looked at that under, when we just got it today,
Mhm.
as that's advertising the project.
Got it.
But I also am okay if that's just the lettering and everything else. But remember, when you say you're going to accept the images, you're accepting it
The
for
images.
whatever gets put out there. So you can't say, I only want the attractive stuff.
I know, that's the part.
Believe me, we just processed the smoke shop. So it's not exactly an even playing field out there.
Well, I think it's worthy of some further thought, because certainly at least the roofing stuff, the silt fencing, and that's part of the construction process, and, you know, what are you gonna do if you hired the roofer and he comes up and the only stuff he has his name printed on it, because that's what he uses
Right.
everywhere else?
And that's in this case, was the case.
Yes.
Again, we gave a couple of alternatives.
I understand we
that-
tried to work with it.
I
but
think
also
somebody's arguing the
understand
principle, though.
why the
so.
owner, yes.
But I do have an application for this that you see, and I need to decide how you want, because if we start the process to change the code, I'm okay letting this forward as long as I get a good direction from the town board.
One of the things I've also seen recently, if you look at Arby's, Arby's fence was just, you see the construction, it has no aesthetic appeal. If you go down to where the new Chase Bank is, they put paper on the fence, it all blew off. So over a period of 2 weeks, it was in the middle of 24, it was in the grass. I tend to think that the clientele we're dealing with in this project, Raising Cane's and the mall, will probably take better care in that regard. But it really is a crapshoot for what you're gonna get, and even if they put black tarp up, eventually it rips and nobody bothers to fix it. Where I think if this rips or tears, I could see this being repaired quickly
Right.
by the builder.
Right.
Or the same with Raising Cane's or whatever, so just, the other part of that too, Madam Chair, is in terms of further discussion, I don't think it'll be too much longer before we get requests from Raising Cane's and the mall, and, what's the other one? There was one more, that will probably be putting up construction fencing, so they're probably gonna come to us with the same request as this project, and I
Most
wouldn't
of these
put 'em
folks
up-
don't even request, they just do.
Yeah.
They just do it.
You know, they may assume that it's just okay because they
Right.
may have done it in other markets where they've, you know, put things up.
okay, right.
Because I know, when I was in Nashville in the spring, there was a lot of building going on, and, you know, you just see this stuff everywhere. It's
Yeah.
it's just what is used these days in construction. And I hesitate to be too far out of step with what
Yeah.
you know, if we want to be out of step with everybody else, I think it should be a considered decision that we're doing it for this reason, and this is what we want to do. That whole
So
thing
for-
doesn't bother
right.
me at all. I think it'll look way better than looking at the construction site,
Yes.
which is just, they're just ugly
Right.
until they're
Right.
finished.
I also wonder how stridently these relevant provisions are being enforced in our counterparts jurisdictions, because I know for a fact that I've seen out in the county things that go way beyond what's written here, you know, in law.
I wonder if they actually treat construction sites differently. I mean, do you
They,
think,
only Hartford County, from my research, actually specifically has regulations for construction sites.
but I wonder if they would consider this a sign regulated or part of a construction site?
I asked them specifically, and they said
they would?
yes.
Okay, that's
But-
good to know.
Saying it and actually going out and
Forcing
yeah,
Well,
is
and
two different things.
we enforce it too, but in response to complaints. So if they're not getting complaints,
Right.
So one of the things we
Hartford County-
could do is we
Hartford
could
County.
say
No,
that,
the
you know,
pre-shield or this?
safety and security graphics are exempted. That's
Mhm.
another way to do it, when you're under the definition of construction sites. But it's really up to, like I said, I need to head in this particular, I can put something together and have you react to it via email individually? Is that,
I mean, I think the safety thing, which was the debris shield, I mean, I think to me, that's kind of a no-brainer to me.
this, what you see here would likely be considered security.
This would be on the security side, right? And,
I think that's appropriate.
right, I mean, again, like I said, I like it, I just don't want them to start advertising prices and this and that, and it has to be related to the project also, not selling advertising space, and how do you
Right.
say that, you know? You know, don't say, hey, let Wawa put a banner there, okay, to the I mean, you know.
Now, that we could regulate, because that would be considered a billboard and would be off-site. So that we could go after. It
Right.
would have to be something related to
To the
either the
project.
project itself
Right.
or the contractors, lenders, all the other
Well,
folks.
that's
that are on
related to
site.
the project,
Yeah.
in my estimate, in my opinion.
Mhm.
So, yeah, if you could keep it restricted to the project, related to the project,
Yep.
I think for
I
safety and
think maybe
security.
those two things together might, you're never gonna solve all the problems because somebody's gonna come in and have something that we just
Oh.
absolutely despise. But hopefully it won't be up long because once the project's done, it'll be down.
Right.
But I think if we have, it's gotta be something with safety and security and only like the names of the project, the architect, make a list, that can be on it, that would be.
We can list that out, we just can't, again, control the messaging. So what I can say is safety, security, add that to the definition of a construction site and say that that's exempted. We still have that 24 square foot limit. Are you thinking that goes away? Because this is way beyond that.
Because the 24 square foot we have in there now is for, yeah.
'Cause
Well,
that's-
that's for an additional sign. I mean,
Right.
wouldn't the safety and security be considered the same, under the same rules as an integral part of the?
Well, if you have a fence and you're putting signage up for architect, lender, blah, blah, that would be
Right.
controlled under the existing code as it's written. If you want to exempt safety and security, that would not.
Right, because
Right.
that would be like
I
silt fence.
think we should exempt it.
That would
Okay,
be like a
so-
silt fence.
Yeah, I agree with, that we should exempt it.
Okay, so,
I think we should, I mean, my view on it, just listening to this conversation is, because this is all pretty new to me, I hadn't been studying up the last couple of weeks.
it's so interesting.
But it's, yeah, my feeling is, look, okay, you got these projects, they've already been approved, they're rolling forward. The last thing that I want to do from a public policy standpoint is add more cost and more hurdles for our entrepreneurs to be successful. So that's kind of my orientation. So with that orientation, I don't have a problem with any of it. I don't have a problem with the fence, with the project on it, because, when the project's finished and occupancy permit is issued, fence comes down. If as long as it's geared towards this is a project in, because I think
Right.
it's good for our, for the people investing in the town to be able to show off their project. I mean, hire a slate. How many people are doing slate roofs? It's gotta be a pretty limited group of supply. So if the slate roof guy wants to say, I do slate, I am not impressed because somebody made a complaint. Complaints can come from a variety of motivations. And I don't want to be the arbiter of motivations. And so just the fact that somebody made a complaint or not, to me, doesn't carry much weight. What matters is what's happening here. There's a slate roof being replaced with a slate roof. We ought to be all about that. And if the slate contractor has a safety net with a name on it, I have no problem at all.
Right.
And so, I think to be more liberal on this point, to be, to free up the pressure and the regulations on that, I'll take the chance on something being weird. Because, you know, obviously we can have prohibitions against obscenity, et cetera, things that are, you know, but just because something's ugly, well, what's that mean?
It's in the eye of
Yeah.
the beholder, isn't it?
Exactly. Beauty and ugly in
Right.
the eyes of the beholder, so.
We certainly don't want to jam anybody up.
No.
Certainly not on something like signage.
And it will answer the questions of all those people walking by, what is being built here?
Right.
Because people want to know desperately what is going in the Kentucky Fried Chicken. They now know it's the Arby's, but I mean, that is the hot topic whenever anything is being worked on, what's going to be.
So
Because
the-
people want to plan where they're going to eat and where they're going to shop,
The
including me.
drift I'm catching is that you're agreeable to exempt really any signage associated with construction, and we can make those changes. I'm not sure I can turn something
Right.
around for Monday, but I think that we can do that, send it out to you, and make sure that you're okay with it, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think that's where we are.
Right,
Yeah,
because
so-
since we exempt it, we can say what content we're exempting, what can, in a way, because you said, we're saying it has to be construction related.
I'm saying that you would say any
Construction
signage, any graphics associated with construction,
of the project.
a
right?
construction project, and related to, we can say related to, and we can put that for your review, and
Right.
that would be it. Now, but if somebody advertises, hey, you know, starting at the 1200s, you know, that's
We'll be stuck with
you're
that.
you're having to swallow
I
that.
don't have a problem with that.
As long as they don't put on that sign, you know, that's on Bond Street, you know, an advertisement for something that's out in
Yes.
Hickory, another business
No,
or something
right,
like
so
that. It's just gotta be-
anything that constitutes an advertisement for something, another location, another whatever, just is not, germane to this project.
It's
Right.
got to be
Has to
related.
be
Yeah,
germane
that's
to the
fine.
project.
We can write that up so that it's,
I
that it's,
think
all
it's
right.
gotta be germane.
And then the people that are building won't have problems with their tradesmen. Like, you know, it's so hard to control that because, you know, somebody rolls up in a truck to my house and is gonna do work on my roof. You know, what do I know? I'm just minding my own business and I figure they know what they're doing. And if they roll out something that's got their name on it, that's to catch debris, you know, I hired the guy to do my roof. Now I'm gonna tell him he can't use his debris shield. It's really difficult for people to manage that. And while this is a developer, not a homeowner, he's probably hiring a bunch of trades too and doesn't micromanage down to the, like, remember, there's a sign rule in town, don't bring your stuff with your
Right.
name on it.
Well, and this makes it clean. It makes our job a little easier that we're not
Yeah.
picking and choosing what to regulate, what not to.
Yeah, so we're talking like on this, we're talking the sign aspect of the standard on bond thing here. We're not talking about changing our fence regulations. We have fencing regulations about
Right.
where a fence can be.
It's just what you're attaching to it.
Yeah,
Right.
right. Yeah,
But it needs to be, right, but we're also looking at, this would be something that goes around a fence, not just a standalone billboard.
I'm not sure I follow you.
Well, you couldn't just put up a separate sign.
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that what we're saying with this? Even if it's not along the fence, even if it's not on the scaffolding, even if it's,
That's where I was going, exempting
Yeah,
all
that's what I'm saying.
signage.
I do understand that, and I don't wanna micromanage it to that level. If you're gonna put up a fence and wrap it in this for your security, fine. If you're just gonna put this up, fine.
okay, so that doesn't necessarily have to be for safety or security.
Right.
That's all. We were saying safety and security
We
as
want- do we wanna
opposed
make
to,
it safety and security?
because if you just put up a billboard.
That fence does have something to do with safety and security, that,
It's
Yeah.
for security.
yeah.
Right.
It's preventing views into the interior of the construction site.
Instead of going with the, we could do safety and security, we could also just say freestanding signage is not exempted. I mean, we could put
You
that
could.
caveat in. I mean,
And
I
all I'm
think
gonna do
that's-
is get arguments. But yeah, if you want to, you could say that.
I mean, because I think that's fundamentally different from something that you're attaching to the building versus, you put up 5 freestanding signs around the property perimeter. That's a very different
Yeah.
beast. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. But it's Pure Lipton, you give me direction, I'll follow.
If we stick with safety and security.
Yeah, I'd rather stick. with
Sorry, if we stick with safety and security, it's covering these two issues that we've had come up so far.
Yes.
And any issues that we are guessing are going to come up with the other projects, Raising Cane's, the mall, that sort of thing. And we've, the bank that's down there is already like, they've
Right.
made their choices, but they could do the same thing.
Like, let's say there's gonna be some fence that probably is not covered. And you might have the architect come over and he might attach something to that fence. Is that security?
Yeah.
I don't want to split hairs here.
Split hairs, because that's what you're going to end up having to do. It's
No, it's related to the it's related to,
It's
so you're
only
saying
gonna-
there's a hole in the fence, that banner is cutting, it's not 25 feet wide, it's only 12 feet wide. So then somebody's gonna put up another sign that's 12 feet wide.
Most of the instances aren't going to be this.
Yeah,
They're
most
going to
of
be
them, if
somebody
there's
who
a
has
fence-
a fence up, who wants to advertise for the different folks who work on the project. That is,
like the state
Regulated?
did, actually. I mean, that's what I think I'd seen on the last state project that I saw. It wasn't a fence wrapped with this kind of thing. It was a fence and attached to it were pretty big signs saying,
Yes.
brought to you by Community and Housing Development, and then had bunch of other names on there, people who worked on the project.
you want those regulated?
No, I mean, I'm just saying, if you're attaching it to the fence, whether it's a wrap or whether it's a piece of plywood with a sign on it, I don't care.
I don't either. It's not going to be there that long. And most of them
I
are
mean,
pretty
is that-
basic, like they're
is
not
that what we're talking
offensive.
about here? I mean,
I'm just trying to,
Or we could say safety,
Pull it out.
security, and fencing.
Well, it's still, the
Just so
idea
you don't
about
have
the
to argue about,
security
is
is to
this
not let
fence
people see
really a
what's behind
security
it.
fence? We could just,
right, but if you have a fence and you have a sign attached to that fence
Yeah.
that has the architect's name,
yeah.
Right.
would you call that security? I don't think I would, because you can see around it. It's similar to what we had here when the town hall was being built. We
Mhm.
had a
It's not
couple of those signs out.
Right. It's not complete, you're saying. It's not
Yeah,
a complete
I-
shielding of the site.
My preference would be not to regulate those either.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Safety and security, just
Just
leave it
say,
alone.
Whatever you want to
I
do.
think I'm okay with that, because it's just not going to be there that long. Once the building's done, it's gone.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that we may add to this, and I'm not trying to get more complicated, believe me, I'm not trying to get more complicated, is that that has to be well-maintained. Because typically, when you have multi-year projects, and some of these will be, you're gonna have, banners like you just talked about, flapping in the wind, and that's something I think we should be making sure that is regulated.
I agree with that, too.
Yeah.
I agree with that too, Mary.
The maintaining it, but mostly what we're talking about are not years-long projects here. We're talking about.
You don't have
So
too many years-long
it's-
projects left in
I
it.
mean, when we talk about other signage in town, we're talking about signs on businesses and that kind of thing.
Right.
And so
Right.
this is short-term.
Yes.
If it's damaged, it needs to be fixed. If it's a
Mhm.
big project that goes on for a long period of time and
Yeah.
there's damage, then fix it. But I think we're, in my humble opinion, getting to the point where we're splitting hairs on this.
Right, and that's what I don't want to do. I want to make
Yeah.
sure that some of these things, which are kind of annoyances for them, I'd rather not head in
Yeah.
that direction. I think that for the most
Mhm.
part, there's consensus here, and I will put something together, send it out to you, and you can make comment on it.
I appreciate that, Kevin. I know you spent a lot of time looking into this. But, it needs to be resolved, because we do have several big projects that are coming along, and it'll save you the headaches of having to deal with
Right.
problems and split hairs.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Commissioners' comments. Any comments from?
I would like to just say something about the fact that, once again, in the town of Bel Air, we had a fabulous event happen when that was the wine festival, which I was happy to attend and happy while I was there, and happier probably when I left. But having said that, I really, really want to give a shout out to the Rockfield organization because we are connected to Rockfield. And I think
Yep.
Kelly, who is the chief person over there, did a fabulous job. But I would like to not forget that the board of directors, headed up by Donna Dickey, did a fabulous job volunteering, making sure all the i's were dotted, all the t's were crossed. I got there early and watched the volunteers take care of parking, and we lined up to get in, and you showed your ID, and you've got a bracelet or whatever. I mean, it was every I dotted, every T crossed, and it was very impressive. And there were over 3,000 people at that event. And it was incredibly well done. I'm sure there were little glitches here and there, but if there were, people were totally unaware of them. It was fabulous. And I want to thank Chuck and his police officers for being there and working as hard as they did and making sure everybody behaved themselves. And I think we did.
From what I
we did.
hear, yes, I think
Yeah.
it ran very well.
I mean,
Yep.
I saw nothing that was worrisome at all. And once again, lots and lots of volunteers, and I have to mention the Lions Club again, right there, doing their thing, all their volunteers. But that was just one of the groups, and I don't have any idea about the other groups that were there. But that was a well-oiled machine, and it was a wonderful event. And thank you, Lord, for not sending more rain this year. But I just have to give them a lot of credit because it was very well done. That's it.
I completely agree, Mary. I also want to give another shout out. We touched on it briefly earlier, but just because there's no announcement section, make sure to come out to Coffee with a Cop tomorrow morning at Newberry Bakery. This is when you can meet the real life heroes, not just on the screen. So it'll be a great time. I also want to give a shout out again to Angela Robertson and her team in economic development for another seamless ribbon cutting ceremony, this time for Evolve Wellness over on Ellendale Street. I think that's a terrific addition to the community because just when I walked in the front door, the smell of all the oils hits you, your muscles relax. They are really, doing the wellness, and they're doing it well, so to speak. And Bel Air is a community where we've got a lot of hard workers. We got a lot of folks that could use some time to rewind. So they will be a wonderful addition. We're looking forward to all that they have to offer because they have a number of different services, and you should definitely check them out, Evolve Wellness. And I finally wanted to thank Mike for your tireless dedication to this election issue that we've been discussing. It looks like there may be a glimmer of good news that will be dependent on what the General Assembly does next session, but state leadership seems to be moving in the right direction. But no matter what the outcome of that proceeding is, and I think I speak for all of us when we say we're going to do everything we can to have our voice heard and make sure that those proceedings are favorable. There is no one that I'd rather have heading up this effort, especially if the worst should come, than you, Mike. Though I really hope you don't have to, and I hope that we don't have to prove just how good you are. I hope you can keep those skills to yourself.
Oh, me too. If I can continue to rely on our partners at Harford County Board of Elections, who have truly been invaluable with their services and expertise for the decades that they've helped us, it would be an absolute pleasure to continue that partnership. Running the election on our own, absent any aid from the local Harford County Board, would be quite a mountain to overcome because they do bring with them all their rules and procedures as well as their equipment and technological expertise to run a seamless and valid and expert election. So I'm hoping I don't have to climb that mountain, and I appreciate your compliment. Thank you.
Absolutely, and we're going to hope that MML brokered solution is able to stick. And but I have confidence a great deal, and that's all I have.
I second that because I know Mike would get it done, but I'm not sure what kind of shape he'd be in at the end of the election next year. And I really hope we can continue as we have in our great partnership with the local board of elections. So crossing my fingers. Anybody else have any comments? All right, let me finish up the comments with, first of all, Chief, not only was it a terrific wine festival that from, the commissioners and everybody else, but we actually, as you know, got an email compliment from Mr. Wayne Goddard, who said he just returned home from the Harford County Wine Festival in Rockville Manor, and in his capacity as the chairman of the Harford County Liquor Control Board, as well as a citizen of Bel Air and Harford County in attendance, I just want to express my commendation for the diligent, respectful, and effective work of the Bel Air Town Police at the event. There were thousands of people in attendance, and those officers who worked that detail in conjunction with the staff of Rockfield Manor did an outstanding job to ensure that the event was safe, orderly, and enjoyable for all in attendance. If possible, could one of you please recognize Chief Moore at the next public meeting for outstanding leadership of his command? Also, Kelly Kauthoff should be recognized because logistically, this event is clearly an enormous undertaking, and Kelly's team of staff and volunteers performed flawlessly. Today was a great day for our town. So, huge compliment. You really deserve it. And on top of that, I know that last week we had a Facebook complaint regarding traffic that tagged
Yes, ma'am.
Jake and I, and that was on, I think, Wednesday. By Friday, we had a meeting set up. The gentleman got to meet with the chief. 2 of the commissioners were in attendance. It is a great small town that we live in. Where else could you possibly have that happen?
I agree,
And it's one of the things that make it such a terrific place to live. We care about everything from trash pickup, traffic problems, whatever it is, you guys are there. So thank you for making us look good. I think that the gentleman was very happy with the resolution.
Well, thanks, ma'am. And I tell you, it's a testament to the, I guess, synchronicity that we all have working together. And it's really the Rockfield stuff. That's my officers. They do it every year, and it's like a fine-tuned machine. They work well with the Rockfield staff, and they get it done. I really just sit back and kind of watch them now. And thanks to Mr. Goddard for recognizing us and them. I appreciate that.
And I will let
Thank
him
you.
know that you did forward that to the
Yes,
officers
ma'am, I did.
involved. I know, I'm sure it made their day to be
did,
thanked and
yeah.
recognized. I know they do their job no matter what, but it is especially nice to have somebody say, thank you, did a great job, so.
Yep. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you,
welcome.
commissioners.
The last thing I have on my agenda is there is a Eagle Scout ceremony at 7 p.m. on Friday, this Friday. It conflicts with our employee dinner. If there's anybody that would like to attend, let me know by tomorrow at 10 a.m. because if not, we are going to send our certificate if everyone signs it and not be attending. However, the church is not in town. I don't believe the Eagle Scout lives in town. I think it was one of those my address is Bel Air things, and I'm sure there would be someone from the county executive's office, someone from the sheriff's department, but they did ask for a certificate, so if you could sign that before you leave tonight, I think it is available in the office, and then we'll have that delivered to them on Friday. All right, anything else? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.